in the name of Jesus. Why is it always because
I will not be moved. No, I will not be moved. I have been a wayward child. I have acted out. I have questioned sovereignty and had my share of doubts. And though sometimes my prayers feel like they're bouncing off the sky, the hand I hold won't let me go, and is the reason why I will stumble, I will fall down, but I will not be moved. I will make mistakes, I will face heartache, but I will not be moved. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all of the ground is sinking sand. I will not be moved.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Road to Hope. Thank you for joining me today. Hey, so very exciting thing. We have a guest today. You know, you know him as Sky Chen, and he's going to talk to us about his adventures in China and some of his spiritual adventures as well. Then we're going to start talking some turkey. We're going to get deep into some stuff. So, very excited about that. Also, hey guys, I need some feedback. I know we've been drifting away from the Book of Revelation. We haven't even started the 7 churches yet, but I promise you we will. I just wanted to make sure I gave you some good, solid guests for coming up. And that is going to, with Sky. Also, on the 28th, feel free to check this out. Carly Hall and Jack Kenna is going to be our guests for on the 28th. Yep. And you can listen to them. Hey, they have the paranormal Q&A. It's awesome. Awesome stuff. And we're going to be talking about the paranormal, and we're also going to be talking about Carly's walk of faith. After all, she's one of my people. So it's going to be very interesting talking to them. And also on the docket in the near future, we are going to be talking to possibly, I have to make sure I clear it, the nationally known author and former TAPS member, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, Ghost Hunters, Carl Johnson. And Carl Johnson was one of the original people that discovered the house that eventually became the movie, The Conjuring. So also, he is doing a wonderful thing now called Duo Demonology with James Anito. And James Anito is an up-and-coming demonologist / exorcist. So we'll be having a nice little chit-chat with him first of the year. So we got some things to look forward to, but also, hey, I also want to make sure that I give you, what's the word I'm thinking of? Good spiritual education too. So, give me your suggestions. I have been taking your suggestions. We'll continue on in the Book of Revelation. So just know I haven't abandoned that course. But at the same time, I got to make sure I produce a good product for you guys. You know what I mean? So you didn't tune in just to listen to me. Well, actually you did. But still, nonetheless, hey, I love you guys. I really do. And I'm grateful for every single one of you. And thank you. By the way, the last show was amazing with Jill. She was really blessed by that. Jill was the woman that lived in the Maplecroft mansion. She's actually moving on Monday. So there isn't going to be anybody there, but there might be a possibility that yours truly may be staying there for a little bit. And I might be doing some of the shows on location. But we'll see what we got to do with that. And Sky needs the link. Could you
I
go
am
ahead and
dropping it to him right now.
thank you, sir. Thank you kindly, sir. Appreciate that. So, oh yeah, so hey, like I said, I got things planned. I got plans, yo. And now, I bet you when you first thought Road to Hope, there was going to be some religious programming. Well, sorry to disappoint you. No, actually, I'm not sorry to disappoint you. I'm not going to be spoon feeding you religious dogma and traditions made by men. That's not going to happen. Instead, I'm going to teach you the raw spiritual truth of God's holy word so that you can overcome on the road to hope. So, very shortly, we'll be joined by Sky, and it promises to be a good interview.
Oh,
So
it's gonna
keep
be beast.
asking the questions. Yep, what's that?
It's gonna be a beast.
It's
I,
gonna be a beast.
yeah, I love my Sky, man. I mean, Sky is he's hope, he's happiness, he's everything that I could ask for. Plus, he's a warrior.
Mm, yep.
Yeah.
Is he with us
Oh, not
or not
yet, but
yet?
he's coming in. He's coming in.
I'm anticipating with I'm shaking in anticipation. Okay, so hey, keep asking those questions. That was the other thing I wanted to say. Wow, those questions were really good and very thoughtful ones too. Those weren't the run of the mill type questions that I get. So I really appreciated those. And I hope I answered them satisfactorily. If I have not, don't be afraid to ask them again because I will get to your questions and I will answer them. And I will show you where to find them. So that way you can look and see that what I'm telling you isn't my own personal opinion, but straight from the tap of God's holy revelation, the Word of God. So, all right, you know what? While we're waiting, I do have one little tiny thought for you today while we're waiting for Sky to show up. And Daryl, of course, will interrupt me, which is good. Listen, hey, you know what's coming up, right? Thanksgiving is coming up. Now, it's going to be
Turkey
different.
Day! Turkey
Turkey
Day!
Day.
Gobble, 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 gobble!
Yeah, well, let me tell you. Okay, Turkey Day's coming up. And this was a holiday that was not invented by the pilgrims. It was invented by Abraham Lincoln himself. That is correct. And he wanted to celebrate the thought of gratitude. If you want to walk in overcoming power, what you need to do, my friends, is develop an attitude of gratitude. So let me give you a one liner. You know how I like to get the one liners to help you out, right? Here you go. Complain, you will remain. Complain and remain, or praise, which is a form of gratitude, and be raised. Complain and remain. Praise and be raised. You want to get out of your situation, you want to rock and roll with God, and you want to get close, gratitude is it because He has given you everything. Not and just because you don't possess it doesn't mean it hasn't been given. The way to manifest the blessings in your life is to start saying thank you before you see it manifested. So right now, if you're praying for something and it hasn't yet manifested, maybe you feel like you're at a bump, there's your answer. In fact, even if you don't even know what the will of God is in your life, give thanks because that is His will all the time. So if you don't know, if you think you're lost and you don't know what God's will is, just start giving Him thanks for what the Creator has done for you, and that will tune you right in. Pretty soon, other things will pop up. Well, I don't know what I should be thankful for. Really? I have had somebody say that to me. I don't know what to be thankful for. I said, you're standing here above ground. You can start being thankful for that. Or maybe you have a good close friend. Thank God for that. Thank God that you could breathe this morning because you were coughing all week. Or thank God that you don't have COVID. Or thank God that God's going to heal the COVID. Either way, the more you start giving gratitude to God, the more you will rise in spiritual awareness and spiritual power and spiritual awakening. That's the key because gratitude is the fruit of faith. So, like I've said before, let's just say I know you, and let's just say I am your beloved uncle. And I tell you, I bought you a brand new car. But right now, I can't give it to you. It's still in the lot, and I'm working things out, but you can have it Friday, next Friday. Now, you're all kinds of excited, and you're thanking me for it. But you haven't even received it yet. But you're thanking me for it. And that's what happens. And what about those kids that are not grateful? You know those kids, the rich, whiny kids that always take, 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 or people who feel like they're entitled,
Wah,
and the,
wah, wah, wah.
exactly. Well, guess what? You don't see them rise any higher than where they are. They will always stay there, because what you hold predominantly in your heart is what will manifest more. To him who has, more will be given. But to him who thinks he has something, even what he thinks he has will be taken from him. So if you have gratitude, then you'll have more things to be grateful for as you continue. That, my friend, is my Thanksgiving message to you. So find a way to be grateful because gratitude will get you out of every trial and tribulation that you're in. Anyway, so
Oh well, Rev. You
yeah,
got all the
yeah.
whining little babies out there. They need to be
Mm,
whining to God. They need to be whining to Jesus. See, I'm not scared to say the word, even though I am a pagan. But the bottom line is this: you know, the Rev is talking straight to you, and he wants you to broaden your horizon, open your scope, learn a little bit of something, something, because right now is the time for you to stand up and
mm,
and
come on.
I'm waiting for people to understand that this time is now. This time
Right.
is ours. But if you're scared to stand, we all got problems. And it's a harmful thing to say, but I mean, look, in all honesty, I like war. I like battles. I like to fight. That's me. That's the way I am. That's the way it is, and that's the way I've always been. But when you look at the world today, uh, Rev, wow, that popped in my ear. Must say that
Is that our friend?
he's coming in, and I want to make sure he gets all the beautiful messages that he can possibly get. Because you know
Okay.
something,
Because he still thinks that he needs a link directly to the show. I'm telling
oh,
him this
he's
is call
got the
number.
link. He's got the link. It's
Yeah.
the
Oh,
same link.
he's got it. He's good to go.
Oh, he good to
Yep.
go. That's my brother, man. I mean, I love Sky because Sky came out after you, and he, you know what he said to me?
What?
You got a beast in you. He wants
Yeah.
to dominate and take over. I'm like, but guess what?
Oh,
The way I take over is simple. I want
mm, I need to
media to
pray.
understand. I want media to
Yeah.
understand who you are, Rev. Because guess what? Sky Chin is in the house. The Chin is in the house. And guess what? He's bringing more than just the word, he's bringing knowledge.
That's it.
Just
All right.
like
Let me
you.
pray a blessing before we talk to Sky. All right.
All right.
All right.
Don't
I
know.
bless you right now in the name of Jesus because I felt very strongly to do so. So there's something going on. And I thank you so much, Father, for Daryl. I thank you for this man's intelligence, this man's wisdom. Thank you for his generosity. Thank you for his friendship. I thank you. This man is awesome. And I come in agreement with those who are now coming in agreement with me for a mighty blessing upon him. In Jesus' name, may the peace of God fill you and surround you. Mm, I could see this cloud. In the name of Jesus, I rebuke you, you unclean, evil spirit. I command you to release Daryl. Let him go. That agita, that angst, that I don't know what that is, but I command you to go right now in the name of Jesus. You release my friend and you let him go right now in Jesus' name. All evil, release him, let him go in the name of Jesus. Father, thank you for surrounding him with your peace and wisdom. Thank you. Amen. Hey, nothing but the best for you, my friend.
Why, you
Hey,
know
I'm not going to give you a hamburger. I'm going to give you, give you some T-bone prayer.
Well, hold on. I'm going to give you something from the sky. Sky Chin is in the house. Brother, what's up, big man?
What's up, guys? Hey, how's it going?
You know what party it is.
Hey,
Oh,
it is
look.
Hey.
big sky country.
It's Sky Country, baby.
Sky Country.
I love. Hey, Sky, that could be the name
What's
of your
up?
show. That could be the name of your show, bro. Sky Country.
Sky Country.
Or Sky.
Country.
Hey, the Global Sky Master.
Oh,
Skycast.
Skycast. There you go.
Skycast. I like
Yeah.
that
Oh,
one too.
how about this one? Skynet, huh?
Oh, shit.
Oh, no. Terminator. Sky.
Talk about conspiracy.
Can't believe I didn't even think of that one.
Oh, my God.
That's conspiracy right there.
Hey,
Imagine
yeah.
if you named your show Skynet.
Hey, Sky, you know how many hits you would get for Skynet? Hold on.
I know,
Let
man.
me think
Probably a
about
lot
it.
of people coming after me for copyright infringement too.
No, they will love you, though. But
No,
think
they
about
wouldn't.
the
If you
love.
put your, if you just keep the E in there, you'd be good.
Zach, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Skynet.
Hey,
Skynet.
daggone it,
Anyway,
Rev.
good
you,
to see you,
you
Sky.
just gave him a hint. Hey, Rev.
Thank you. Good to
That
see you
was
guys too.
prophetic words. Those were prophetic words, Rev.
Okay.
Skynet. Sky.
Not surprised.
gotta talk.
I just prayed. Yeah.
Amen to that. We got to talk.
There you go.
Skynet.
There you go.
Skynet.
Skynet. Skynet. It's done. Signed, sealed, and delivered. So, Sky, how you been?
Been as good as anybody has in the past couple weeks. It's pretty real. It's pretty intense out there.
You look hairier than the last time I saw you. I
Thank
think.
you. I've been putting on hair serum.
It looks great. Looks
Thanks,
great.
man.
You kind of look like my boss.
Oh, really?
So,
Not quite as tan.
not quite as tanned and
Yeah.
not quite as oive, but close enough.
Mm.
So, yeah. So, you've been good. Things have been. Now I understand
Yeah.
you have a show.
Well, not a show yet, but maybe that's in the mix, right, Daryl?
Really?
I've been
It
doing
is
things
when you
every-
are ready, Sky. It's when you're ready. I'm waiting on your call. You said you were gonna call me, bro. But I know. Look, I know you've been healing a lot of people and you've been telling them the truth. So I've been waiting on you. You know how to say? You waiting on you. You're the great Sky.
God bless you for
Skynet
that,
himself.
Sky. Taking care of people.
Oh, he does. He does a lot of work, Rev. I mean,
Yeah, he
this
does.
man has a heart. And, it's really rare to meet somebody like Sky because, honestly, I didn't want to speak, but I have to say it. Sky,
Say it.
you've opened up some whip ass, as they say in my world. And you've opened up. I like that. Rev, come on, man. You know me. I like some whip ass.
That's true.
And last but not least, Sky, you've shown. Dang, everybody is quoting on this. Dang, I can't get enough blooms on my phone.
Oh, it's going to be an interesting show. I know it already.
But I just want to
man.
say, Sky. Right now you're not dealing with the hundreds. Right now, you're not dealing with the thousands. So what I want you to do is, brother, I want you to come and take it to him, like the Rev takes it to him. Because you know something? How should I say it nicely? I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to change a little bit, Rev, thanks to you. Thanks to you. Okay, I'm trying to change a little bit. I want you
Attaboy.
to bring that can of whoop ass and smite people like it ain't, like it's July 4th. Okay. I want
Thunderbolts
you-
coming out of my hands.
Oh shoot! I want you to party like it ain't nothing new, brother. I want you to tell the truth because people don't like the truth. Rev,
Yeah, they don't.
They don't like your truth either. And you
No,
know,
but that's okay. That's all right. Hey, Sky. So now, Sky Chen, Now,
Mhm.
I know I would definitely want to have the conversation about your adventures, especially your travels,
Yeah,
as
I've got stories, man.
good, good, because I'm a world traveler as well, and I have been to, well, Hong Kong now is part of China, but I've been to Hong Kong and I've traveled hither and yon. And of course, I always like to hear the adventures, especially someone of like mind. It's one thing when you have an adventure, and it's another when you have one and you are spiritually aware. It's almost
Mhm.
like you start to experience your adventure in 3D. You know what I mean?
5D.
So, yeah, exactly, 5D. Yeah, yeah, we're talking fifth dimensional stuff. Crazy, right?
Heck yeah, man.
So, but first, tell me, tell the gang, what do you do? Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Sky Chen. I do psychic readings. Been a psychic all my life. Been through, I like to say, 8 lifetimes in one life so far and
I feel
counting.
the same way. Yeah.
A lot of people do. Well, these are monumentous times to be born into, and it takes decade upon decade upon decade for some to experience what we need to experience at the time that we need in order to prepare ourselves for what is needed in this
Right.
world. And the name Sky Chen came to me while I was living abroad in Taiwan.
I was going to
Someone,
ask you about the name. Yep.
yeah, it's and then when I started doing this service, doing this reading, doing my gift for a living, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
my guides were telling me use this name, go by it, and we'll back you up.
Cool.
And it's been about a year now or so when they finally told me, hey, put yourself out there for what you're actually doing. Because for years prior, I had been reading Chinese astrology. So I was using that, and kind of as I was engaging people, I was kind of falling back on that and saying, well, this is the astrology, this is the structure, this is what the ancients say, and here's all of what we have to say about your life. And because Chinese astrology is so intricate and has a lot of different structures and systems within it, it's an easy medium for any intuitive to use in order to read people.
Right.
Now, and you understand this, right? So some people like cards, some people
Hmm.
like nothing, some people
Right.
like astrology, some people like runes, some people like divination, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever gels with that individual, whatever helps
Right.
them to connect with me or connect with anyone else that can read them
So you
will
do.
help.
So you're in a sense, multilingual in that way, right? So
Yeah,
what would be your primary psychic? Okay, so now you said
my
guides, so that
primary.
means
Hmm.
right.
Good
So now do
question,
you
man.
right? So is it like do you do mediumistic? If you do mediumship,
Hmm.
what kind of mediumship? Or if you're on the psychic side of the house, well, what specifically is your
My forte,
bag? Yeah, what is your forte?
my
Well,
my specialite. Well,
yes,
it's interesting you bring that
speciality.
up. It's interesting you bring that up because honestly, if I'm going to answer that between you and me,
Yep.
it's a lot of
And
stuff.
yep.
But people these days at this point of time, we like to have our labels, and we like to
True.
say, okay, I'm going to go to the market and I'm going to select whatever kind of thing that I want, and it's very
Hmm.
systematic, and it's very like, oh, here's all the little books on a bookshelf, let's pull out this particular series because I want to read that, or I want to have this product or service come to me. I am a psychic reader. I can
Hmm.
channel. I am intuitive. I get visions. I hear things. I also just know. Clair
Hmm.
sentience, I believe that's what it's
Yes.
called, the
Yep.
exact term.
Clairsentience. Yep.
So that's my big thing. But it depends on the individual. It
Right.
depends on the individual. For whoever is connecting with me in a certain way,
That's how
whatever
you're
comes
going to.
through will come through. Sometimes I'll get a barrage of information that I hear and see from
Right.
their guides, from whatever mojo's going around with them. Other times I'll actually literally telepathically connect with an individual, and we'll have kind of a moment where we'll both kind of smile. This happens with kids more so than with adults these days.
Right.
Um,
Interesting.
mhm. So that's kind of the reading aspect of what I do. I also do a form of energy healing that I coin ethereal calibration, EC. It's basically my own form of Reiki. It's an intuitive kind of healing practice that's bestowed upon me from my many, many past lives. See, I was a Taoist high
And you can do
priest.
this at a distance, right?
Oh yeah, distance
Yeah,
is not a factor because
Because in
we're
the spiritual realm, yeah, exactly. Everything
correct.
is,
And I
yeah.
believe what it is when I work on people this way, and I did this on that Halloween show that we were all present at for that.
Shenbaka.
Yes, Chen Baka. I helped this woman who was really discombobulated. And the best way to put it is it's like a esoteric how do I say? Like
Great word.
thank you. It's like an esoteric chiropractic adjustment. You go into the chiropractor, you're all out of whack. You need to get, cracked in place. But I kind of do that in a gentle way or a strong way. Again, this depends entirely on the individual as well, because I don't really feel that I am present there. I let the guides tell me precisely what to do, and I go with it. I have to be 100% down with whatever comes to do. And it just kind of comes there. I'm not really thinking, I'm not really present. I am kind of displaced from myself and observing it as it's going as well. So it's a very powerful experience. It's a
So
very
do you do a lot of what they call, well, let me see. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
go for it.
Oh, okay. So that's fascinating. So in a way, what you're doing is you're tuning into your client, and whatever level your client's at, you meet the client at that level.
Yes.
That's okay. Yeah. Have you ever known beforehand, getting maybe some revelation like a day or two before a client calls you? Because that happens to me a lot, where I will be just sitting there or
Yeah.
something, and then all of a sudden I'll get this download of information, and I'll be like, "Wait a second, that doesn't
Yeah, you
apply to
get
me."
packages. That's
Yeah,
kind of how you work.
yeah,
It's pretty
yes, I do.
cool. It's pretty cool. And the way I see you get it is like this orangey, bright red light that comes to you because you're fiery in the way that you do this. It's almost like sun energy comes to you. Solar. That's how
Yep.
I feel.
Well, I do operate in sun energy. You know,
You go outside and you bask.
S-O-N.
You've got chlorophyll running through your veins. You're like, give me all that vitamin D.
Just call me Superman. Yep.
You got your feet in a fertilizer bag.
Right.
Well, yes and no, because it's so. I wish I could tell you that it's this way all the time, but it's
And
really
it's not. And in no way am I trying to put you in the box, because,
Yeah.
well,
You can put
the
me in a
spirit-
box. That's fine.
yeah,
I'll answer
but
with straight.
spirit is like a river. Yeah, I mean, it's water, and water takes whatever form it fills. So I can't put water and label it a particular thing. And in fact, even in the, I guess you could say, the mystical side of Christianity, where they believe in the gifts and the supernatural endowments of the Holy Spirit, it's the same thing. It's the same thing in the church, where they're all about the label. They're like, well, I'm an apostolic prophet, or I'm a teaching prophet, a pastor, and it's just like, no, you're not. No, you're not, because the spirit will manifest.
No, you're not.
No. And because if you insist on having all these titles,
Yeah.
then you're too much working on yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The titles that I have are ones that people have conferred upon me, and that's the way I like it.
It's an interesting line to trek, because when you work with mankind, that's kind of where we're at right now. And the way I see it is it's a byproduct of 155,000 years. For whatever reason, that number keeps coming up with me. I mentioned this in the last one too. 155.
And you're not completely human, are you? No, you're not.
No.
That just came right up. Oh my gosh. We'll be talking about that later, but not yet. Go ahead.
For sure, man.
Wow. Just
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Oh, man, I get a lot of information with that too. My father, there, this,
We're not going to talk about it. We'll talk about that later.
okay,
Go back
okay.
with the original thought. So we're talking about how we don't put the spirit in the box.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get information in advance and sometimes you don't.
When I do the ethereal calibration, it's not really like information coming to me. It's more along the lines of I just do it.
Right.
There doesn't even have to be a mind present. I can observe sometimes, and sometimes I'll actually ask questions as I'm doing it and be like, really? I do this? What is this for? Or whatever. And then sometimes that'll come through and they'll tell me as it's happening, but I ask them to assist me with it.
Right.
And there's many, many souls. Like you were saying before, I've got a really big team. There's thousands upon thousands of individuals, I guess you could say, that come and go and take part in this task and that task with whatever I happen to be involving myself in. And I feel that a lot of this is available to me because of this life's endowment coming from having lived so many past lives. And going back to what you were asking before, it's like, oh, well, maybe you weren't asking this before, but you want to ask this. Growing up, I've got really, really far back memories that go back to like 3 years old, 2 years old, like in the crib. It's interesting because when you're a child and you've got this kind of endowment and you have this kind of way of knowing and experiencing the world, you really just assume that everybody else is kind of like that, because where you try to navigate the best that you can and nobody really, comes to you and it's like, hey kid, what is it that you do? Name it to me, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, give it a label here and there. It's just me. It's just what I experience, and you can really only explain it or give it the best words that you can to kind of meet people where they're at. But even communication, even language itself is meeting people where they're at. So It's a challenge, man. It is a major challenge to talk of truths, because Daryl's loving the truth. There's a lot of truths that are uncomfortable, and I am not uncomfortable going to the uncomfortability in truth.
Right.
I have never, ever been that way, and that makes people uncomfortable.
So here's a question. Now, when did you discover that no, I wouldn't even ask that question. When did you realize that you had a calling to serve mankind, number one? I think the astrological number is 9. Not the astrological, the numerology. The number in numerology for humanitarian is, I believe, 9. Anyway, when did you realize that you had that call to help people? And when did you realize that you could tune into animals?
I've always known about the animal thing. Always, always, always. Animals don't really communicate in words necessarily, unless they're pretty smart, like dogs or parrots. And then it's not the same way that we really conjure things up with our working mind, because people don't realize this necessarily, but words and language, especially English, is a very cognitive, functional, kind of logical oriented tool.
Right.
And it really gets in the way, especially when you age and your brain develops and you're an adult and you kind of, through the growing up process, unlearn a lot of what has already been accessible to you. And when I say you, I mean a whole lot of folks, which is why we are at a time now where people are realizing there's got to be something more to this. Why am I feeling unfulfilled? Why am I feeling like there's something missing in my life? So to answer your question, it wasn't a boom, aha, I've got these gifts. Holy cow, what do I do now? I've always had the sense growing up, and this relates back to a very early trauma that I experienced with my abuser. Myself and my sister were abused for years by our caretaker in multiple ways. And essentially nobody could really verify that for us, or nobody was willing to hear us out on that because we were so
you
small.
had no validation at all?
No validation. In fact, the opposite. You're not experiencing this. This isn't true. Come on, don't tell stories,
Right.
things like that. So it taught me at an early age that I had to fend for myself. And so there was this experience that was ingrained into me to be strong for myself and to be rebellious, because that's the term that people call it. Oh, he just bucks the system. He doesn't like to fit in. And I'm telling you something, like growing up, no matter what, if I tried to fit in or if I just didn't give a rat's ass,
Right.
either scenario, I wouldn't fit in entirely. There was always these fly-by-nighters, these people that would come and go, because I have this tendency to go deep, and it's uncomfortable
Really?
to a lot of folks. You can't tell. I've got a Scorpio moon in my astrology, so I feel like that's kind of a way to describe it, right? Using terminology. But to answer your question succinctly, little bits and pieces here and there growing up were clues where I've always had this willpower. I've always had this unyielding willpower, this tenacity, this persistence, whether or not I was totally pushed down to the ground, beaten and kicked, destitute, or I was flying high. Either scenario and anything in between that, I've always had this resource, this source energy that was there, and it's powerful. It's really, really powerful. And earlier in my life, I never really contextualized it in that kind of a way, but I was very artistic. I was very musical. I was very obsessed with things that I wanted to learn. And that scared my parents mostly, because I would go through these, what my mother would call obsessions, or my phases, where I would be absolutely consumed with some topic or another. And I would just like consume it and just get into it and eat it all up. And that ferocity, that's not the best word, that intensity is something that people fear, because they want to be able to control it. With coming from where I come from, with my upbringing, that's always been a major theme of my family: control, and manipulation, and subtle manipulation, narcissism.
Fascinating.
Yes.
So actually, through your brokenness is where the power really started. I can see that. Well, that's very interesting. We will continue, but I want to make it more interesting. So let's try something new. You feel free to ask me questions as well. So if you have any questions you want to ask while we're talking back and forth, let's just we can do it that way too. Because also, just setting the intention out there. Any revelation that happens as we talk to each other, let's bang it out.
I got tomato. In the last session that we met each other, I was channeling a lot of food. I've been doing that lately, and I'm actually very thankful for it.
Oh my gosh, it's like you're like a food psychic.
What's up with the tomato? Because I saw this beautiful ripe round tomato that was like polished. Sometimes you go into the supermarket, they look shiny and like.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but I was trained as a chef as well.
Oh.
So, yeah. So.
Oh man, we should talk about food one show. Just 2 hours, just straight talking, like Taurus Network. Yeah.
Foodie. Like, yeah. And then there it was. My guide was telling me about how this was happening while I was eating this delicious pastrami sandwich made with my special sauce, by the way, mayonnaise.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But
pastrami.
See what I'm saying? Oh, so now what is your lab behind you?
What was that?
Your lab.
My lab
behind you? Your collection of chemicals there. Oils.
These are some Ayurvedic medicines and herbs.
You alchemist, you.
This is a product. See, I've recovered from Lyme disease for the past 7 or 8 years.
Good for you.
I thank you. I am so grateful to be alive. In fact, God, spirit, my will is what kept me alive these years. That's a long story. We could talk about that too, but this is a good segue. These are homeopathic would you call them
Oh, you're
medicine?
definitely coming on again. So don't worry about that, my friend.
These are homeopathic things. So I've got some antigen, I've got some smart silver, which is a nanoparticulate silver solution.
Nitrate? Oh, yeah.
No, not nitrate, but it's like colloidal silver, but it works better because it's much, 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 much smaller in size and diameter. So it
For
actually
your werewolf
passes.
relatives?
Yeah, it passes the blood-brain barrier really well. So it gets into the brain because I've had quite a bit of infections that have entered the brain, actually. And it's interesting because that's kind of when these keys started turning for me. You know, it's when we hit brick walls or when we hit like dead ends with our lives is really a gift, curse. I hyphenate
Right.
that
Right.
because at the time we feel we're cursed, but these curses are really gifts from God to direct ourselves in places that we wouldn't otherwise grant ourselves, especially to such powerful and stubborn individuals such as myself. I was very, very closed off. I had learned for years and years how to distance myself from myself. And it wasn't working for me. And it wasn't working for me to such an extent that my body started cascading all of these issues. And it wasn't until this year that I learned that while in Taiwan, one of the infections that I contracted happens to be an extremely deadly bacteria called Rickettsia rickettsii, which causes an illness known as Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is only found in about 4,000 to 5,000 individuals per year who are lucky to get that diagnosis, who are lucky to get through the conventional medical system, have them tested out so that they don't, they live long enough so that they don't croak before they get the
Right.
results back and everything. But it kills about 40 to 50% of the people that it infects because it goes to pericardial tissue. It infects your heart, your arteries, your veins, and it causes a whole bunch of imbalances in your blood pressure, in your red blood cells and everything, because it actually eats away the epithelial lining of this cardiovascular system that we have. So this is what I now know caused my initial heart attack when I was 25 years old in Taipei City.
Gee. Must
Yeah.
have been painful.
It was an event. It was very, very frightening. Ironically,
a very close friend of mine. I just got word that a very close friend of mine just passed away from a heart attack.
Wow.
Just this evening. So it's interesting you should mention that.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry not to break the flow here, but yeah.
It's
I was fortunate to be there when the medical examiner came over, so I could bless the body. So, but
a lot of us exit in that fashion, in that way.
Hello to Ramona. Yes, we love you.
Hey, Ramona.
Ramona,
that was a wild reading that we had the other night, Ramona. Thank you for that. I didn't even put two and two together until after the fact. I was like, oh God, that's Ramona. I was like in the zone. If you didn't see that show, Ed, with Chris, that was amazing. She came on, she called, and from 1984, she had this experience. And I have not, to my knowledge, had any reading like that before where that kind of situation came through.
It's interesting because I did see a portion of that, and you had confirmed some of the things that I had said to her when I read her. So that was just amazing. Yeah, the part that I saw anyway, it was really cool. So now, so here you are, and you have, how long did you live in China?
About 2 years or so.
Okay. And how did that affect you spiritually?
Oh boy, that was.
I mean, it's a communist country, so where did you get your?
I do want to specify though. It is interesting given the current historical context of what we're talking about. I lived in Taiwan, which, depending on who you talk to, is part of China or is not part of China. If you ask me, I'm not going to say anything, but you can tell in my eyes what I really feel.
Of course.
I lived there.
That's where all the toys are. made in
You know,
Taiwan, right? It's well the
there's a
toys
lot.
are.
There's a lot of, well, back in your day, yeah, probably, because you'd look on the bottom and say made in
Back in
Taiwan.
my day, what are you implying? Back
Well, it
in
was
your
my
day,
day too at one time.
well,
Let
you
me
used
tell
to
you, man.
carve the toys from pine trees. Yeah,
Back in my day, we had toys in Taiwan that were made. Well, back in that day,
right.
I was
got you.
alive as a Japanese woman in the 70s. I died in the 70s in 77.
Interesting.
And
So,
I
the
was,
layover wasn't that long.
it wasn't too long. It was about 11-year layover if you count the time, but the time doesn't really work that way.
Exactly.
It's not linear in that sense, but I was hell-bent on becoming a man and becoming a white guy, a white person, because I was sick and tired of being in the backseat position in that society in Japan. It's still kind of that way to this day, where men and women have these very clear-cut roles, and it puts a whole hell of a lot of pressure on both parties. And I was bitter about it. And you know how they say the grass is always greener on the other side. So
Right.
it doesn't make it easier necessarily if you're a man or if you're a woman. It's so varied from individual to individual, why we're here, what we're supposed to learn, what we're supposed to experience, at what stage we're at. It's not a race. Life is not a race. There aren't medals for being a better soul or more progressive soul or one that has more experience or has this capability versus that capability. It has absolutely nothing, no bearing on the value of life itself. So I just want to make that clear, because that needs to be heard these days. But going back, yeah, I lived in Taipei for a couple of years. It was a time in which ushered in that spiritual awakening, but I didn't realize it at the time because it took years for me to kind of experience what I needed to experience and go through this timeline, this sequence of events in order to bring me to where I am today, which is still progressing. It's still
Right.
got a trajectory of its own, you know?
Right.
But over there, it's interesting because coming back, I was working with psychic mediums and getting a lot of readings myself. And one of the gals told me that I had a hard time over there, which I did. It translated into my 3D everyday life too. I had just a lot of calamities, a lot of just what you would say bad luck or inauspicious things happening to me. I lost my scholarship that I worked a whole year towards and did all this and all that. It was an amazing government scholarship, actually, because I was accepted into a graduate program at one of the best universities in the entire nation with political science as the track. I had studied China in college. I actually have a 4-year degree in international relations. So, and then before that, I studied Wuhan Hao, Nina. But
I asked him, "Hi, how are you?" And he said, I'm good, thank you." Right.
And then I said, "And you?"
Oh, and you, Wahen Hao, right?
Perfect. That's perfect. Fei Chang
Wahen
Hao.
Hao,
That's
Wahen
good.
Hao, Shishe.
Oh, and he said, "Thank you. 不客气. You're welcome. It's nothing." So there were temples there. I want to mention this. There were temples there that are thick. That's the best adjective to use. Double C thick with spiritual miasma.
Yes.
There's incense everywhere. There's a different attitude towards one's relatives and towards one's blood in
True.
Asia in general, or in the old world, really, but we lost it in Europe and in our traditions.
Leaning more towards ancestor worship in a way.
Yes, it is thick. It's not just human spirits, though, that gather. And sometimes human spirits, if they're worshipped enough, can become something more as they progress through hundreds, if not thousands of years in certain locales, which is why there's these temples in locations here and there, in India as well as China, all around the place, where they have their local deities that I'm pretty sure it feels like they used to be actual human lives. They used to be human souls way back in the day that did something amazing for their community, or they had a reputation in their community, and a lot of people prayed to them. They funnel all of that. Temples are thick, double C thick, because they funnel all of these wishes, all of this energy, all of everybody's intentions that are going there, and there's a wide variety of intentions, let me tell you, with people coming to the temples. But I visited several of these, and it was almost like you could take a butter knife and just like cut it into the air. But what I'm getting at is, coming back to the US, psychics were telling me that these spirits, a lot of them didn't like me because of my own ancestry, where I come from as a soul. Now, in Taiwan, it's got a very complicated political history, okay? Socio-political history. It's one of the most complex places on earth as far as history goes, because you had an original population that was there, the Polynesians, that eventually migrated to all the island chains, went down to Australia, New Zealand, all the way to Hawaii. They originated, one of the bloodlines originated, you can trace the etymology back with the DNA back to the Philippines, back to Taiwan. And Taiwan was the original place where this giant migratory initiation happened. I think it was like 15,000 years ago or something like that. But then you had disgruntled, disenfranchised Chinese merchant class people that were fleeing China during the Southern Wars. I think it was during the Han Dynasty, or right after Han fell. There were the warring states period. So people got sick of it, right? All these warlords. There was war for like 200 or 250 years, just solid. And no place on earth has seen more blood spilled by the thousands upon thousands upon thousands than ancient China. They used to take ridiculous numbers like 500,000, 750,000 troops that would slaughter each other in this tiny little recess of land, well, compared to the rest of the world. But their battles, man, were epic, monumental. But anyway, people would flee. And so a lot of them went to Taiwan and they set up shop, and they kind of like peacefully coexisted with the natives for a long, long time. So that was one group that it came. And then sooner or later, you start getting the other waves of Chinese settlers that were not so friendly. And then you had the Europeans come with the Dutch and then the Spanish. And the Spanish were nasty everywhere they went. Spanish conquistadors.
That's true. Conquistadores.
It was about gold, and it was about power, subjugation. It was like, you're my bitch. Like, this is what we're going to do.
Through religion. Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, that too.
Yep.
And so I have a Dutch ancestry of this current life. Like my blood, my family is Dutch. We are, in that region of Northern Europe, German, Danish, Dutch, a little bit of French, some Saxon, that type of region. And so a lot of the spirits didn't like that. On top of that, I was many, many Chinese lives from the mainland. And so spirits didn't like that aspect of it as well. In fact, I was a Taoist high priest in the 1200s. And so, like that position really goes to a person's head sometimes.
Let's stop that for a second. That's a good point, because something that Daryl and I would talk about a lot is that when people talk about their past lives, which, by the way, just for the record, you and I divert in major directions. But now, it's fascinating to me that when people talk about their past lives, and it's always something like, I was a high priest. But you don't hear about somebody saying, well, I was a stable cleaner for Caesar's horse, or I was a,
Well, so, to pander to that, I was a lot of livestock.
You know what I'm talking about. That's true.
Yes, it is true.
In the past life, I was Merlin. Yeah. You know how many Merlins I've met?
I was a potato farmer in Ireland that starved. But it's because we don't like to necessarily go back and experience that. There's an ego thing to it.
That's true.
It's also in line with why we like
the whole title thing.
Yeah, but it's also one reason why I feel it's so awkward when I still, even though I respect this, but it's awkward for me to say, like, I'm a psychic medium, I do this kind of channeling, I do this kind of service, because it relates to that kind of definition that we yearn for as human minds. But it's not a bad thirst to have. It's just a limited thirst, because in what we can understand and learn from going about using labels and dissecting everything into smaller and smaller bits is, one of my favorite gurus says this really well. He's like, you can't stitch from a scalpel, because a scalpel is like the intellect, is like cutting things. You know, if you want to learn about yourself.
Yogananda?
What was that?
Paramahansa Yogananda?
Sadhguru.
Oh, okay.
Jaggi Vasudev. He's pretty big right now over social media. He's in the United States currently. Still, he got so close to me. I'm in Minnesota here, but he travels around a lot, and he's a big motorcycle junkie. He's a cool guy. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So okay, not I don't want to divert, but you have definitely demonstrated your high intellect, which now leads me to this question.
Sure.
How do you balance your intellect and knowing an answer and kind of shutting that down and receiving the true answer? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I could talk to this person and tell them what their problem is, or tell them what they're, I can fix it for you, no problem. But that may not be the answer that they need. So how do you juxtapose those things?
That's an excellent way to put it. Thank you for asking that. I want to say a couple of things on this. So the first is my intellect. I used my intellect for years and years and years as a way to hide from myself. So I've flexed that muscle enough to know that game, to know that kind of energy, that kind of, I hate to call it game, but it's a strategy. It's a kind of focus. We use our intellect, we use our minds. There's nothing wrong with using it, but to accomplish something, or to fix something, for lack of a much better word, there's 1,000 different ways to screw on a light bulb. And just because you can do it the long way doesn't necessarily mean it should always be done the long way. Now, I feel like the intellect is extremely inefficient with a lot of different things that I'm now appreciative of, and balancing it for me so far on this journey has been really looking at who am I spending time with, and what kind of company or energetic transaction is happening with this individual. Just the other day, I got into a very, very intellectual discussion with one of my friends from college, and I realized, okay, this is my limit. This is what I want to go at with this, because this is not efficient. I'm getting frustrated. This is a sacred rage, really, anger. And it has nothing to do with me being angry at him. It's just a frustration because I don't want to specifically only operate with that. But a lot of people who do think that that's the only way, that's the only route. And then they do these things. They throw these bits of information and it loops, and you kind of get stuck on it. And it's like,
so they say the same thing in like 3 or 4 different kinds of ways.
They reprocess it. Yeah. Right. And the things that people are saying have been around for thousands of years. It's just a different context in which we're talking about what we're regurgitating. We just know more. We know more based off of the tools that we've created in which to know. So basically it's like a painting that we're adding layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer to the painting. Does that mean the painting is ever finished or complete? We're just adding more context, more contour off of a very specific and narrow path that we're choosing with the intellect. And
Right.
it's nauseating sometimes, because there's so much more dimension to a human being, even just cognitively. There's ways to know without knowing, and they're
Right.
shortcuts. It's like what you and I and many others do, who have really gotten comfortable with ourselves and have went through trial and tribulation in our life.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of folks who are psychic, who have intuitive capabilities, they don't have easy lives necessarily. Let's just put it that way. It's a very, like the Spider-Man quote keeps
It's
coming up with me. With
with
great
great
power
power
comes great
comes great
responsibility, Peter.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Thank you, Uncle Ben. Yeah. First of all,
Oh,
uh,
Toby.
thank you, thank you so very much for coming on the show. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
You are a great man, and boy, you just have a lot to say, and I want to make sure I'm squeezing your intellectual, spiritual juices.
It's
Anyway,
concentrated. Better
but
water it down.
I just wanted to get that out there. It's really great
Thanks, Ed. I
talking to you.
appreciate it.
Okay, so all right, my friend. So now, how long have you been? Now, is there a certification or a license that you have that?
Not with this.
And
Who do you go? Who
and
do
do
you
you
go to for
charge?
that?
And do you charge?
Yeah, I charge.
Okay, okay, and then that's fine. I'm
Yes, I
curious
do this
because I always ask
professionally.
different psychics if they do it professionally and how much. Just off the, do you charge?
Well, it depends on what
general?
you're looking for. If you are looking for a psychic reading,
Hmm.
I do 15-minute sessions, 30-minute sessions, extended sessions for 60 minutes, about, give or take. I also do the ethereal calibration
Hmm.
healing. With ethereal calibration,
Which, by the way, you
each set.
do. Yeah, with ethereal calibration, you also do that with remote viewing.
Oh, is that what you would
Almost like
call it? I guess.
I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, because what you're doing is I can actually see it. It's like you look at the person, and you see what the issue is, and then you, with the positive and the negative, you harmonize the person's body until that area either returns to the shade that it's supposed to be or is brighter. But either way, and usually the person really feels like stuffed, and then it just kind of oozes
Yes.
up.
That's a
Yeah,
really good way to put it. That's a really
yeah.
good way to put it. In fact, the last one that I did it in person. I was at an expo last weekend in Wisconsin, and this gal comes up to me, Native American, with her friend and this little girl, last 5 minutes before I pack up shop. And she sits down and her shoulders are like this. Her heart is all like closed like this. And it was the very first reading, the very first session of anything that she's
Hmm.
ever had. And I did a reading for her. It was just supposed to be a reading. And I was bringing up about how she has been so wounded by these men in her lives, and she just got out of a really dangerous relationship. And it got to the point where, she really loves these people. She has a pure heart, but it gets to the extent where it gets dangerous, and it threatens her physical safety.
Mm.
And it not only hurts her that way, but it crushes her soul to know that somebody that she loved and that she trusted would betray her to that extent.
Right.
And while I was going through this reading, I just heard it was like, offer the ethereal calibration, offer the service. And I was like, if you don't mind, I'd like to do some energy healing on you, if that's okay. So I started the energy healing. This little kid that was all antsy just stopped dead in her tracks, was looking at me and was just like, what is he doing? And she was helping me. She was helping me out. I had to help her. And then I looked down at her and I was like, thank you. But she got kind of like, ooh, he noticed me. Oh, should I not do this? And then, looked away. It was really, really cute. And I was like, no, that's fine. Help me out. But we did this. I did everything that I was supposed to do, that I saw, that I felt. Sat down, her shoulders were down. Her whole energy just cleared and lifted. And like you said, it feels like they're stuffed, and then it just kind of like empties. And there's this open quality to it. It's this relaxation it's like you had a glass of wine, you had your feet in an Epsom salt bath for an hour, you fell asleep, maybe woke up, and you're just like, it's like that kind of feeling. And she was just blown away. She was blown away.
Yes.
So yeah, this is ethereal calibration. Every session I do for that is $333. If you want a session with that, plus you want channeled messages after it, which is like a follow-up, because a lot of times I'll get information just flood me.
Of course.
Just flood me when we're realigning this stuff.
Because healing isn't just a physical thing, it's an emotional as well. So
yes, absolutely.
With the psychic side. Yep.
That's what I see it as with ethereal calibration. It's multifaceted. It's multiple dimensions within a person. It's not just their physical body, it's their emotional and spiritual bodies as well that I'm aligning, like a chiropractor aligns bones.
And that's like my pet peeve. It's like I tell people, just because somebody knows something supernaturally doesn't mean they will help you. It's like, what's the point? Why waste money? Go to someone and they tell, or they tell. A lot of times they tell them what these people already know. But go to somebody, or rather, let me work on you. Let me pray for you. Let me bless you, because now not only will I know things that maybe you know, but I will also bring a healing at the same time. Because if you're leaving my presence worse or the same, then what was the point? I firmly believe, like you said, with great power comes great responsibility. That is the truth. And I also really believe that if you have been gifted with supernatural power, then it comes with a responsibility to help those people to whom that power was meant for, because it wasn't clearly meant for me. My job is to dispense it. But the beautiful part is, you and I both know, as Daryl knows, that whatever you sow is what will grow. You keep giving it away, it's going to keep coming back multiplied. And when I ran away from the call, when I started knowing things about people, I ran away from it. And
a lot of us do.
But the more I was wanted to bless people by knowing these things, the more stronger it got, to the point where it was like ridiculous. What's the point of running? You're doing good, So
it's a lot. It's intense.
Right. So what is your pet peeve when it comes to the paranormal and spiritual things? What is a pet peeve of yours?
This is a pet peeve of mine. When people window shop and
Really? What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm grateful for this, but I realize this is not where I'm fitting best in the spiritual community, because there's a lot of readers out there now who they devalue themselves, I guess, or they don't, or a lot of times they're just straight up BS. I'm just gonna say it for what it is. A lot of times they're full of shit. They're not actually readers. So those are the folks who are telling you stuff that you would already know. Or when that's happening, that client isn't worth that interaction. And this is my pet peeve. When I feel drained, it only happens in a specific way, and it only feels a certain way. This kind of draining only comes when there are people that want to interact with me just to see what they can get in an entertainment sense. When they come around, they're like, ooh, that's intriguing me. And they don't exactly know why. It's good that they're getting intrigued, but they throw it away later. It's an afterthought, and they move on to the next and the next and the next. And window shopping, because a lot of these groups, like on Facebook and Instagram, you can go on there now, and then people will come in and they'll just kind of like go back and be like, hey, if you're drawn to me, and you can follow their activity. They'll go from one person to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. They'll be looking to see just what they can get. And it's vampiristic. It's like, I'm needy. Right? I'm needy. And they don't.
It's like vampires.
Yeah. It's like, would you work for free? And this is an extremely important line of work. We're talking about life and souls, life beyond life. We're talking
Yes.
about stuff that transcends your body, your life right now as John or Linda or Sky or whoever
Yep.
individual. And it's like this work is really priceless. So that's a pet peeve of mine.
I agree with that. Hold that thought. I
Yeah.
agree with that. That's a pet peeve of mine too. What we call it prophet hunting. It's where they'll go from church to church and they will look for the man of God who has that prophetic gift.
Yeah.
And they will keep going, but they won't take the revelation that's given to them and apply it. And it's
This is
like,
this
and
is where
also,
the law of
I,
manifestation comes to them, because when you're going out
right,
and you're like,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
I want, yeah, then you get the healer who
Mhm.
uses you, who gets you, who appeases you in the same way
Right.
that a narcissistic, bigoted, arrogant, egotistical kind of lover would take advantage of somebody
And you
and suck them
now
dry.
understand that there's a prophecy of the in the end days where it says that the people of God will gather unto themselves messengers who will tickle their ears. And what that means is that in the last days, the people of God will just gather people to themselves that
With
will
a bunch
say
of
what they want,
Q-tips.
right? What they want to hear, right? Exactly. With big giant Q-tips tickling their ears. No, but they will say whatever it is that, and here's the thing, and here's the danger that I tell my fellow clergymen is it is so easy because with that prophetic gift, you can pick up on that person's soulish desire, that person's wish, that person's intention, and think that that is actually something that's going to come to pass without and not take the time to listen and look deeper into the person's spirit. So a lot of times, we're picking up on people's, oh, I wish for this, I want this so bad. Well, listen, what you want may not necessarily be what you need to have. I always
Yeah.
tell people, listen, I'm not here to entertain. Even this show is entertaining, but I'm not here to be solely an entertainer. I'm here to educate.
Exactly.
And when I am working with somebody, when I'm working with a particular client, not in the exorcist sense, but in this prophetic sense, I tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And I tell them that, listen, if you're not interested in changing, I'm not going to bless you, because if I bless you and you don't change, well, then that is going to work against you instead of for you.
It's going to work against you too, Ed.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Karma.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's a
Oh yeah, we're going to
hard
talk about that too. Yeah, karma.
that's a hard lesson that I've had to learn again and again in this life, because
Yeah.
I want to help everybody. Shouldering one's karma, shouldering another person's what they got going on is
Right.
not going to help anybody. It doesn't help
Right.
you and it doesn't help them, because this is
Now,
why
what do you mean
people
shouldering one's karma? Because, well, basically, you reap what you sow. So
Yeah.
now, how are you shouldering somebody else's? What do you mean? Just for that time being, you're shouldering their karma?
when you
Uh,
save the damsel in distress. I have this kind of thing, especially with significant others. This has been a recurring pattern for me,
okay.
where the most wounded are attracted to me,
Right.
and I fall in love with people that need some serious help, and I try to
I
shortcut
so
it.
relate. I have
Yeah.
had so many train wreck relationships that way. Yep.
Because we love them, we see what's there, and we can go, baby. We can go there, but a lot of times they're not ready for that.
Mhm.
So what ends up happening is they're traveling at 20 miles an hour, you're traveling at 60 miles an hour, and it gets further and further and further, but you want to try and catch them up. You want to try and like reach back and pull them. And sometimes
Right.
you can lend a hand, but if they're not willing to do that and you have to do all the legwork, let's say you lift them up somewhere, you help them out through something, but they have no context, they have no learned experience from that, they have no integration,
Like a
and it's going to
magnet.
be repeated. And then now
Yeah.
you are left with that. You are left with that which you have integrated with.
hmm
And then it
And it's
becomes
like,
part of your karma.
or they become healed, and then they move on, and I'm the train wreck, like you said.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. All right, so now
Yeah.
I definitely believe in a form of obviously I believe in the form of karma. You know what I mean? I just
Mhm.
call it differently, but there is that law. You
Yeah.
reap what you sow. I mean, it's out there, and it's like, you're either aiding and relieving somebody by changing that karma in some way,
Mhm.
or and it's not change. See, it's an immutable law. You can't change it. But just like gravity is an immutable law until you apply a higher law, which is the law of lift. So now you got this megaton airplane. It's stuck to the earth. It's not going anywhere. But yet all of a sudden you see it flying through the sky like it's ignoring gravity. But in essence, it's just applying a higher law.
Or if you have an anti-gravity machine, like a lot of
Come on.
species do. I want to say something. I want to add something to the whole karma notion. I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding around this. See, karma isn't about tit for tat. I do this, so this
Was in the days of Noah.
Mm.
So, which is interesting because one of the things that happened in the days of Noah was there was a hybrid species that emerged in the earth that were a hybrid of the Benai Elohim, the sons of God, and the daughters of men. Now, many different ways, different angles of people saying, whatever, but it's said the prophecy states um, that there were these mixed humans before the flood, and there will be after. So now,
Neanderthal. That's what came up right away
like the
when you were talking
Neanderthal,
about. Mhm.
exactly what I'm saying. So now there are mixed humans today.
Absolutely. And interestingly, I can give you some empirical data to munch on to kind of relate with this. I have
Back to the
done...
food thing already. That quickly.
Oh,
Munch.
yeah, we'll talk about that because I'm getting hungry, man.
I'm hungry too. I want to order something.
Oh
All right, go
man,
ahead.
you got me thinking about pastrami.
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 Molto bene.
Oh my gosh. Um, I am in the 85th percentile of the entire human population for Neanderthal DNA. I have tested
Really?
my DNA. Yep. If you use the
Well, I
23andMe,
was going to say you're such a Neanderthal, but I didn't want it, be offensive.
I've got the red in my beard. You can't see it here,
I
but
could see it. Yeah.
oh yeah,
And the roots. Yeah.
yeah. Um, the
You
Neanderthals.
handsome devil, you.
Thank you. Um, the Neanderthals were a very spiritual people. That's the
Mm.
feeling that I get. They have been around longer than Homo sapiens. There might still be some around today, but I wanted to say this earlier too. My paternal DNA going back about, what was it? It was like 15,000 years ago or so, which is around this time that you're talking about.
Mm.
They have isolated my father to this very narrow region in Europe, which is still a mystery to this day. Have you heard of the Basque people?
Yes. The
So
snake people.
I have paternal DNA that's traced to the Basques, which is in between Spain and France in the Pyrenees
Right.
mountain
Yeah,
range.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then my
Yes, I have.
maternal haplogroup is the
They were
oldest.
very mysterious people. They are very
They
mysterious.
were. There's
Yeah.
people, archaeologists and anthropologists and paleontologists alike, literally say it's as if they were drop landed
Right.
on that region, because they don't have any linguistic cousins of any sort. They don't have any biological or etymological
Their
relatives anywhere in the
cosmology
region.
is very interesting.
Yeah, it's as if they were just plopped there, which they may
Yep.
probably have been. There's groups
Probably.
like that, the Denovesians, Denovesians in Asia as well. I've always felt that the 5 phases, which is called Wuxing, or 5 elements as we kind of translate, but a lot's lost in that translation. There's an example.
That's right. Exactly.
This is a study, or not a study. This is a structural understanding that is imposed within Chinese astrology and within feng shui about the different elements and how they relate to this and that in the world, different directions, different energies, different times of the day, the year, the month, everything like that, which is so cool. We could talk about that too. But I've always felt like this knowledge is so intricate and so thorough that it must have been, like, how did humankind come up with this? Like busting flint on pieces of rock and chasing animals in the forest and like huddling around a campfire to stay alive in that time period, because they guess that it's at least 7,000 years old, but I feel like it's 15,000 years old. So I feel like it goes back to the Denovesians, and they very much could have been a genetic lineage that was created. I feel like mankind, it's interesting how in the Bible it talks about we were created in the image of God, because I feel as if it's probable, I just heard, that certain species that were around on the earth but aren't necessarily around today were in charge of, I've got some weird feedback as I'm saying this now.
I know.
Interesting.
They were. Yeah.
Wow. That was weird. That sent chills down my spine. I don't mean to be disclosing any information I'm not supposed to. They said I can say it. That we were genetically modified from existing DNA of a previous species and mixed with something that was a little bit more original to this planet, more ape-like-ish. And then there's all kinds of stuff written about this in ancient Egypt, in the Sumerians.
The whole idea of evolution.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people adhere to that almost religiously, and it does lend to then spiritual evolution, and that's fine, whatever. But I don't believe that. I believe in creation, obviously. And there is more of a premise for such a thing, for creation. But here's my thought. Even science is now starting to leave the Darwinian idea of evolution and getting into creation. But the more fringe scientists are saying intelligent design, as if aliens had come and modified, like you were saying. So that perhaps that humanity is a
colony, is what I just heard.
A colony, yeah. Or an improvement upon what was the original creation. Well,
it's like, why do we fumble with genetics these days? With that which may not be named right now for fear of demonetization. We'll just call it the sickness that's around the earth right now. We have a certain...
Get down with the sickness.
we have a certain injectable, right? That just so miraculously came about with that kind of engineering.
You know what's fascinating is a lot of people don't realize just how much the supernatural and the spiritual is really present in everyday life. Yeah, we're talking about how, the origins of mankind. We're just going with the flow, how the conversation's going to go. But it's true, though. I mean, it's like,
What we see and what we feel viscerally is the tail end of manifestation. It's that
right.
this realm, the 3D, is sluggish and
Mm.
it's more weighty.
It's
It's more
more,
dense.
right. The reality that we see is
Mhm,
not the actual reality. It's always fluctuating, always changing,
mhm.
always under the influence of a higher force. And then
Yep.
past that is the true reality. That which is not seen is what is real.
It's like the tail of
So,
a comet is what we feel
okay.
and what we adhere to. But what you're talking about is like that head of the comet that's roaring and rocking through space because you see the
Right.
comet as a trail, right? I think that's a good analogy that we can all use and
Mm.
appreciate. It's like what we eventually see and behold to be true that we call flesh and blood reality
Mm.
is is a slowing down. It's almost like a residue that comes off of, because there's an individual reality and there's the collective reality, and they merge to create our experience here in this life. And that's why we come here in order to manifest. Wow.
Hi,
Did you hear
Katie.
that?
Yeah, I saw Katie's face pop up.
She's
How
laughing.
pleasant. How
Yeah.
pleasant. You're a
Wow.
beautiful lady, Katie. We love you. Okay, so all right. This is just such great conversation.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so from from a biblical Christian perspective now,
Mm.
the destiny of mankind is actually to manifest the person, the presence, and the power of the Creator Himself, itself, both male and female, and to literally walk in union with the Creator, both now and after this body is done, to uh, live in conscious union, keeping the individuality, but yet still one. And that is what the ultimate aim of real Christianity is. I'm stripping away all the these and the thous and the religious tradition, but that is the ultimate gift that Jesus strove to do, was to restore the image and the likeness of the Creator back to mankind, and to remove the karmic debt, I guess you could say, so that we could be liberated to actually fulfill our spiritual destiny. So,
It makes me
anyway,
wonder if Jesus was actually a yogi during that time, that gap
well,
from what was like,
what's the definition of yogi?
well, exactly. But it's interesting because what you're saying this entire time about union with God
But
and
he'd
with
be the
love.
yogi of yogis, just mind you, just letting you
Well,
know.
he's got the
King
look
King's
down,
Orlando.
that's for sure.
Oh yeah, he did.
But he traveled. He traveled for a while, and then we had that big gap, or
Right
supposed
from when
gap, right?
from when he was 12 years old
To 30.
to when he got of age. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Maybe he
And
traveled east.
well, some say he did, and
Mhm.
some say that he was known as Issa, and that he studied with the yogis, and then he went back to Egypt and studied there, and then he went after his resurrection. He went over to the Americas for a while and did whatever. You know, uh, such things don't bother me, as because hey, he's Jesus. I
They
mean,
shouldn't bother anybody.
all
It's
things right,
interesting.
but yeah, but see, even what I just told you about the ultimate end of mankind,
Mm.
even some of my colleagues would throw me out of the church for saying that. But the sad thing is, what I just said was absolutely true.
Mhm.
And it's just like, some people are just wrapped up in their religious tradition that they nullify the actual truth.
Mhm.
And when I parted from that, I swore that I would only teach revelational truth, because that's where the supernatural power is.
Yeah. And that's the
So,
conundrum about religion, isn't it? Because it's got good intentions at first, but it
right.
always.
And religion, right. But religion is a plague of mankind. It
Mhm.
really is. And because it's not just Christianity, it's also uh, Islam. It's
Yeah.
also, Hinduism. It's any other religion as well. Because when you totally nullify the truth with tradition, that's a problem. I don't care who you are. So, you know what I mean?
It creates those double C thick situations.
But I do love just the spiritual centers where the vortex. Well, in Massachusetts, in Fall River, there is a hospital called St. Anne's, and I used to love going there all the time because I would, minister to people.
St. Anne's.
Right. I'm sorry. I was just looking at a comment Ramona was saying. Anyway, yeah. So, I was like, I was at St. Anne's. Now, inside St. Anne's Hospital is a chapel, but the chapel is the size of a small church. And prayer goes on there all the time. And somebody who is sensitive to the spiritual things will easily pick it up. And I will just go there because they have like prayers at 11 and then prayers at noon. And they have a book where people can sign their name for like sacraments for healing and whatever. Now, out of the many that are praying, there is guaranteed at least a few that are really touching creation, because that energy is there. And it's just like sometimes I'll go to that place and I'll just sit, breathe in that beautiful smell of sandalwood or frankincense, and then just get cleansed. It is amazing. And people don't realize that prayer is so powerful because it's releasing what is invisible into the visible. Now, here's a thought
Giving
that
it
I
form.
have. And I would like to have your opinion on this, okay?
Sure.
Now, you and I are very familiar with manifesting things. And in fact, you like to do it for fun. So I can see
on a
that.
Tuesday.
If I'm wrong. Hey, on a Tuesday, I wanted to manifest a pastrami sandwich. Oh, don't worry, that's coming tomorrow. So anyway, back to what I was saying. From the teachings of Jesus, the master said that mankind, in essence, was given the keys to the earth. So nothing can manifest in the earth unless it goes through mankind. You have to be born from a womb in order to exercise any form of dominion or power in this plane. And that helped me understand the nature of evil spirits, because even evil spirits or good spirits, they can't do anything in the earth without cooperating through a human host or a human being.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? Now, I'm just curious about what you think about that.
Absolutely. It's been interesting. The past 4 days or so, I have been binge watching like haunted TV series and shows and stuff like that. The stuff that you do on the paranormal investigations and stuff, and the stuff that would normally terrify people. And I used to be scared at that, but now it's just like fascinating to me. But that's come to mind too, because sometimes I actually try to get my sense off of what's really going on.
Maybe someday I'll take you on a case with me.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. That'd be fun.
It would be. But yeah, to feed off of the emotions of people, because in the imagination, that's where stuff is conjured. And
right.
It's interesting because the reason that these tools that we go into these days with all the EMF detection, all the, there's all sorts of technology, laser pointers, everything else. Everything that does manifest, albeit strangely, it does happen physically. It does come into the realm physically, but just barely, because these entities are using not necessarily us directly, but it can be us indirectly. There's this thing called Ramanabunda.
Hello, very good.
Ramanabunda. It's
Ramona's Ramona
Ramona's.
Bunda.
Oh no, don't go there.
Easy now, killer.
Yeah. But when you shake a person's hand, you pick up on let's say the stuff that the snowball picks up as it rolls down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's Rananabunda. It's the residual energies of a person's aura, their physical body, their spiritual body, their mental body. And we leave impressions on people and places. So there can be a Rananabunda of an area, even if there's no people present there, as long as it's had contact with certain people that have imprinted certain energies into those places that soak it up, that retain it. There's certain earthly materials that reverberate that which they absorb, like stone, like wood, things like that. You know, you hardly ever see like a plastic house or a plastic doll or something like that that's ever haunted. It has to be something a little bit more resounding, a little bit more natural, a little bit, that has some sort of echoing quality to it, vibrationally, that will allow these disembodied spirits to do their thing, to manifest, but just barely. They can't hold or sustain that manifestation without a source. You're exactly right. So in these hauntings where they seem to get more and more intensified, that's why it usually, like stuff usually gets more and more intensified the more people interact with it. You ever heard those stories? I'm sure you have, where people, get curious about their haunted house, and then they try to communicate, they try to reach out, they do this, they do that, and then they open an avenue for that. And then lo and behold, the activity increases, because you're right, like they're feeding it in a certain way. So the point I want to make is it's not necessarily direct, but it's also the touch or the scent that you may impart vibrationally onto areas and regions and places and things.
That's fascinating that you should say that, because St. Paul had said that when we go about telling the world or telling the nations the good news, the gospel, we are like a sweet savor to those who are being redeemed. But again, he's talking about that scent, leaving a scent along. And there's a like an intellectual tool that we use in Bible teaching. It's called using types and shadows, and the Bible does that all the time. So, like, for instance, when it talks about the temple and it talks about filling the temple with the smoke of the incense, it's not doing that for the incense. It's referring to the physical manifestation of the presence of God when he shows up, called the Shekinah glory. So, when someone comes out from when the high priest comes out from the presence of God, coming from the holies, the Ark of the Covenant and the holiest of holies, he smells like the holy smoke or the holy incense, which then is a type of the reality of those who actually do pray. And when they do pray, they exude the presence and the nature of God, that sweet smelling savor, of a sweet and holy presence. You know what I mean? So, like you're saying, it's fascinating.
I'm smiling because I heard a joke right then and there. They were saying the holy smoke of God, and I heard like reggae music. Bow, chicky, bow, chicky, bow.
Yeah. I've actually heard some
out
people
of a hot box. Oh, and I also got this too as you were in your zone. Have you been thinking about a tattoo on your right wrist? Because I saw you with like a tattoo. I think like this, like a small little tattoo, like a crucifix.
Interesting. No, but now I do.
Well, now you do, because I implanted it in you. No, I saw that. Like
Interesting.
I saw that there. Yeah, it was just straight black, no color, but it was meaningful, like really meaningful. It's like you earned that tattoo. It's not like one of those, oh, you wake up one day or you're on the juice and you go to some parlor and you're like, give me a bombshell or give me a heart with mom and
No, but it's a
shot
tattoo
through.
that signifies a
Yes.
position. Yeah.
Yes. And it was very intricate, but not too big either. It was nice.
There are special tattoos that you get when you're in the military and different operations that you do.
Mm.
And, you get the tattoo, and that lets you and others who have been in that same operation that may not necessarily have been a public one,
Mhm.
Hey, I got that special tattoo because of a particular special thing that I did or am doing. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yep. Fascinating.
Interesting.
Like special forces, they have that kind of tattoo. And you can't fake it too, because there are certain things in their tattoo that is not publicly known. So you're over there going, look, I'm probably with special forces. Yeah. Well, guess what you're missing right there, pal? Stolen valor! Stolen valor! So
Yeah. Those videos are crazy to see. Oh, people do that, and it's
I have a buddy of mine.
Cool.
When I was in the army, we were both prior service. So we were in the army, and the hours I spent in this guy, because he was one of those black-eyed kind of guys, where he was half Cherokee and, half. He called himself, I'm half savage and half Italian. Okay, whatever. And so I used to call him Chief to tease him. I used to call him Chief. But I mean, he had a very short fuse, but he was prior special forces. So, very fast.
Yeah.
But I had actually helped him and saved him in a situation that could have been much worse for him.
Yeah.
So that friendship developed as a result of that, and there was that trust. He used to tell me all the time, you're the only preacher I like. Now, I wasn't a chaplain in the army, but I had already pretty much gotten all my stuff done. So one day, I don't even know why I'm telling the story, but one day we were just bantering back and forth, and I called him Chief. It was about, because it was, I'm like, man, you look like you're getting a little upset. I don't want it raining inside the barracks again, Chief.
Oh boy.
And he's snickering at me, right? Whatever. And this new guy comes in. He'd been brand new for for a little bit. And bam, he said, hey, Chief. And the guy got pinned to the lockers, and he's like, don't you ever call me Chief. I don't know why I'm told that story. We have a caller.
I see that.
Right? Okay,
Welcome.
so who is it? Hello, caller.
Hi, it's Ramona.
Ramona!
Ramona.
Ramona. Ramona. Hey, I had to do that just for you, Ramona, because I love you.
I love you too, Reverend Ed. This is so interesting, and the many layers of Sky Chin. Okay,
right.
I have a question.
The dude is an onion.
Yes.
I'm a wonderful smelling onion. I'm not.
You're one of those onions that brings health to people. I just put it on my feet and I'm cured. Anyway.
I make people cry.
Oh.
Yeah, you make people weep with joy.
In the best way.
Anyway.
I have a question.
Yes, please. But I heard it was a really awesome reading you got the other day.
Oh, yes.
It was
and
powerful.
I heard that it also confirmed a lot of what some of the things I had told you.
Yes, and some of the things that you didn't tell me.
That's true.
Because you held back.
Yes, I did. So, what is your question, sweetie pie?
Okay. Have either of you, okay, now I experienced this when I purposely astro projected, and I know you're not supposed to do that, but then I've also experienced it in the presence of others. Have you ever, with a client or going into a haunted house, smell the smell of sulfur? And what does that signify?
Well,
it's like a rotten egg smell.
Yes, it is. Yes. And well, because Sky is the guest, I will let him go first, but I will give you the exorcist perspective afterwards. Sky?
It's good you bring that up too. So the first thing I get right away is not human. It's I feel like that would not be human when you pick that up. It's a lower vibration. It's not necessarily good or bad, but I would say it's not healthy for mankind, which is why we typically are averse to smelling this. This kind of smell kind of makes us crinkle our noses up and kind of be repelled by whatever would be causing such a stench. There's certain kinds of energies in this universe that have their place. And a lot of times, maybe this is a good segue to bring up this topic, but the whole idea of light and dark has never really sat with me in the same way that a lot of people sit with it, because there is duality, but it's limited. It limits us to see things in that kind of a way. But what I'm trying to say is this is an energy that is of the earth, is old, and is about rotting. Or it's not just physically rotting though. There's this word called tamas, one of the three states of matter. This is I'm trying to remember the exact term. See, this is why I don't like terms, Ed.
No, too bad. Suck it up.
I know, right? Well, too bad. You're a human. Got to do it. So there, in the yogic traditions, in the old cultures of India, they talk about these three states of matter. And in one of the states of matter, it's called tamas. And tamas is a state of decay and a state of inertia. It's a gathering. It's when you leave your pastrami sandwich out on the counter for too long, and then it starts to mold and flies collect, and it starts to rot and to bubble and to collect. There are certain types of life forms that are manifest and certain types of energies which do not hold a form that we were just talking about earlier.
I'll still eat it.
Yeah, oh God. And these energies, they like this. They're attracted to that. So that's why the smell comes with that. It's an energetic linkage. It's a residue, like we were talking about before, that comes with the involvement that such entities engage themselves with. It's their jam. It's their thing. And,
astral projection.
Oh.
What about that? She mentioned that she.
Okay.
The reason why she smelled
that. Like in the first stages, it was like I was passing through different levels, and oh my God.
Was it after the vibrational stage?
No,
what
it was just.
What I get with you, Ramona, I feel like there's a literal place in your vicinity. This is something in the earth, in the ground. It's like a mineral deposit or something that's been in the land for a long time that you're passing by or you're passing through as you're going to where you're going. Because I feel like it doesn't always happen, but it's been happening. It's been happening lately. I feel also too that there's a certain kind of churning that's happening in the earth right now, because there's a, going back to what we're talking about, the law of gravity, but the law of lift. There's a certain kind of lift that's happening on the planet in these following 2 months, to be specific, between those two periods, between the period of December 16, January 8, there's going to be a massive overhaul on this planet, a detoxification process, and it's going to suck things out. And I feel like that's kind of like stirring a pot in that region. So just more of it happens to be bubbling up as you pass through, as you go through. As you're astral projecting, are you projecting to a particular location every time?
Oh, she doesn't astral project anymore. She said that she did it once because she knew that she,
Okay.
Yeah, I was spying.
Yeah.
Oh, you were spying.
Yeah.
Okay. One particular person or one particular place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it happened every time with that instance, because you were passing through a landmark, let's call it, for lack of a better term. You were passing through a landmark and getting a whiff of the residue that was about the funk in that landmark. And so as you, boom, showed up where you're going, you sort of, it's like beam me up, Scotty. You know, Scotty's on on the fart planet.
Yeah.
and he gets beamed up, and there's like a little bit of smoke that follows him as he leaves the chamber, and Kirk is like, oh God, what was that? Was that your pastrami sandwich earlier? And he's like, no, I was just beamed up from that place on the planet. It came with me. So it's kind of like that.
Okay, now it's my turn. Okay, so you said you left your body. Now, is that something that you were able to do pretty easily? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, it would be in the beginning stages when you start going into that deep relaxation and you're starting to lift up. And as I'm right before I actually start to rise and completely leave, I smell it just like I smelled it in clients.
And how did you, right, and I'll explain what that is. Now, how did you feel also when you smelled that?
Well, it kept distracting me. So I kept
did you feel like the hair on the back of your neck kind of thing? Did you feel a good presence, evil presence, anything?
I just felt very uncomfortable, and it kept taking my concentration or, away, because I was like, what the hell?
From what I understand, when people are in that half asleep, half awake stage, either A, because they're in that hypnagogic state, they're prone to all kinds of audio and the six senses being the five senses being hallucinatory. That's what the psychologist will tell you. What I will tell you is that another name for that smell, and what'd you say it smelled like? Sulfur, right? Right, sulfur. Well, another name for sulfur is brimstone. Okay?
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with the term fire and brimstone, okay, one of the classic manifestations of an evil spirit is one of them. Now, it doesn't mean that it happens all the time, is that you will get that scent of brimstone, that
volcanic
rotten egg smell. Yes. And in my experience, just like you said, you had met clients and you knew these clients had spiritual issues, and you literally could smell that spirit because that was an evil spirit. So demons do, upon occasion, have that kind of smell. And it's not because they smell that way. It is because it is an identifier for you. We look for, for myself, I have a pattern that I can look through. Like, for instance, I know that if there's a spirit in someone's life that's evil, there are three things that will be going on in that person's life. There's going to be a lot of stealing, killing, and destroying. Their life is being stolen from them, their marriage, whatever. A killing. Well, they're on drugs or something like that. Maybe they got some kind of disease. Destroying. Well, whatever was good in their life is being subtly destroyed over and over and over and over and over again. So the steal, kill, and destroy, God and Jesus, life, and that more abundantly. So I look at those things. Then, the other stuff, people say, well, you have to look at the whole picture. You just can't say, well, like Sky was saying, it could be any number of things. It could be a volcanic emission coming from, or it could be, Uncle Stewie had that pastrami sandwich with refried beans, and then after that he chugged down a big gallon of prune juice. Okay, well then, it literally came from the bowels of the earth. So yeah, all right, but also at the same time it could be spiritual. So you got to couple it. The fact that you said you could see it you could smell it in your clients, and the fact that you were actually smelling it with your supernatural sense of smell, that tells me very clearly that there was an evil spirit present. But see, you have to take into account all the things around in order to come up with a diagnosis like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Makes
and when you experience that, especially you can just send it on its way by saying, in the name of Jesus, or, power of attorney, go
Yeah.
and come back no more. That
Ramona,
young
part of the reason why.
Oh, hey, hey,
Oh,
just a second. That young lady, her name is Jill. I'm just playing with you, buddy. Jill, did you hear that interview last week with Jill? Ramona?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. Because you called. Right. Jill, she also experienced that, and she was a victim to the house, and she was a victim to the spirits in the house until
Wow.
she realized that the image and likeness of God was restored to her, and that she had the dominion. And so from that time till present, I talked to her today on the phone. She is the master of that house now. So even if
Mm-hmm.
there's the slightest supernatural thing, she sends it on its way. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just to keep that in mind. But yeah, but that's pretty much what I would say. So back to you, Sky. You were saying something before I rudely uninterrupted myself.
no, that's fine. Ramona, what I'm getting with it is the reason that it kept occurring over and over and over again is twofold. One is when you were spying, you were kind of opening yourself up to that kind of realm, that kind of energy, because it wasn't necessarily the best intentions, we'll say. It was sort of like a manipulative kind of thing of what you just wanted to absolutely make sure and to know. And it was a little bit intrusive. And the reason, that's one reason. The second reason that both you experienced it and your clients experienced it was that your clients were engaging in certain kind of behaviors too. But for you and your perspective, this was spirit showing you, hey, there's a correlation here. What can we learn from this? What does this signify? What does this show? And
do you agree with that, Ramona?
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was
Especially, right, especially with the astral realm. That is so responsive to your words and to your thoughts. So as soon as you think about it, it's right there. Now it takes a while for it to manifest to this physical world, so it's got to take a process.
It's also a dinner bell.
It's a dinner bell, because
Yeah.
like attracts like, sweetie. So if you're out there, and listen, that's all been forgiven, and that's not who you are. So we'll just say some guy named Uncle Ben. Let's just say Uncle Ben leaves his body, and he doesn't take his own advice about with much power comes great responsibility. And he flies around because he wants to spy on his wife to make sure she's not cheating. So he's leaving his body. Now that intention is jealousy, let's say, okay? Now, because jealousy is not a divine characteristic, it will attract the very thing that you are, whatever level you're at.
Okay.
Let's just say I leave my body, and for some reason I am sent. I go flying, and it's I'm visiting you, Ramona. You're sick, okay? Now
Okay.
I am. Holy Spirit takes me out of my body. I'm right there with you, and I'm praying for you. Now, there's no way a demon will be able to, or an evil spirit, or negative energy, whatever you call it, will be able to interplay with what I'm doing, because at that moment, I have a divine intention, so I will attract angels, and I will attract them instead. So,
yeah.
Wow, I think Sky and I are in harmony on this one.
Yeah. I want to add too, no judgment, but more specifically, you have to discern what is meant for you, what is healthy for you from what isn't. Because just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
Mean that we should.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
because I would love to leave my body. You kidding me? I would love to fly.
Yeah.
I want to fly so bad I could taste it.
But another question:
Sure.
Have either? Do you believe in bilocation?
Ooh.
And have you ever done it? Been
Now,
in two
question.
places at once.
Okay. What was the? I'm sorry, I rudely interrupt you. I apologize. What was that? The last part? Do I believe in bilocation? What was the last part?
Yeah, being or have either of you ever been in two places at one time? Somebody swearing they saw you
Hmm.
and talked to you in one place, and you're back at home, but they swear they actually had a conversation with you.
Hmm.
Is that
Well, first,
esoterically possible?
I completely agree. Um, I completely believe in bilocation. Scientifically speaking, in quantum theory, they've discovered that they can take an element and it can appear in two places at once. So bilocation is scientifically proven down to the molecular atomic level. So that in itself is hands down. But uh, absolutely, as far as now, I myself have not experienced that, but my mentor did, the Reverend Kenneth Beers, who has gone to heaven. He passed away, but he tells a story. He told me the story where he was at a conference, and or no, there was a conference. I forgot what the story is, but he was at a conference, and then while he was there, he went into the store, and when he walked into the store, this man comes running up to him, gives him a big hug, and is like, "So glad to see you, my friend. Kenneth, how have you been? And thank you so much for helping me. I am so much better. Whatever you need, it's on the house," kind of thing. He's like blown away. He's like, "I do not remember this guy. I don't know this guy from Adam." And he's like, all of a sudden, this guy knows my name, and he swears we had a conversation. Now, the thing was, he was not even remotely. There was a conference, yes, but he didn't even make it to the conference. All he did was he wound up going to the store, but uh, it was like up in Maine, and he was at home in Rhode Island. So somehow, when he got there, that's what happened. When he got to the conference, then he went to the store, and then that guy's like, "Hey, how's it going?" So yeah, literally, he did bilocate. So I know some people say bilocation is like astral projection, but no, that's not really
No, it's different.
because right. But the actual consciousness of my friend was in two places. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know him. you know, Ken, he was a brother to me, and I knew the man for almost 20 years, and there's no way he could effectively lie to me, and he knew that. So uh, the fact that he told me that story, he's like, "Man, I have not shared this with anybody, but I've been in two places at once," and I was like, "I believe that," and then he told me the story. So what about you, Sky?
I have personally not yet personally been in this situation where I've been in two places at one time. But I want to add to this. Sometimes it's more than one thing that's occurring. Sometimes in the case of Ed's friend, they are literally bifurcating a part of them. It's not the whole. I feel like it wasn't the whole of him in that specific instance. It's not to say like there was one whole person here and one whole person here.
Right.
But his consciousness was spread. Well,
Yeah.
again, he's one
Mhm.
with the creator, so it wouldn't be a bit surprised if.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Now, there's other situations and circumstances that certain people watching this may be in where it is another entity masquerading as a person. That
Sure
happens.
enough.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well said.
Now, the
Shapeshifters.
the closest thing that I can think of for me to experience this, it's not that I am there floating, but I get this thing, and I still haven't figured this out. Maybe you can tell me, Ed. But I get sometimes when I'm channeling people, not always, but I get physical locations that I've been at in my life.
Mhm.
Usually I've been to these places like 99% of the time. And there's no other soul in that vicinity than me. It's just me. I'm in a location at a time in my life, and the feeling is neutral, whether or not the circumstances that unraveled in those locations were positive or negative for me. A lot of times they're positive, a lot of times they're negative. But when I have this occur while I'm channeling, the feeling itself in that moment is neutral, and there's nobody around. It's just these literal locations that I'm in, and they're very particular. They're very specific. That's the closest that I have come to anything like this with bifurcation. But Ed, what do you feel that is?
That's almost like, but you're consciously aware of being home, but at the same time you're consciously aware of being at these specific locations. Is that what you're saying? Or that
when I'm channeling people, for example, when I'm
right.
channeling certain clients.
Oh, I see.
For whatever reason, right. I go there because I'm channeling the information for them. It's like coming through, but in addition to that, because I'm an onion, right? There's layers to it. So there's lots of stuff that come through. It's not just one.
Don't you feel like you're there with the person when you're channeling?
I go there while I'm channeling the person, but that person is not with me. There is no other soul there.
Right.
In fact, I'm not even there. I'm just observing that location.
Oh, so that's like remote viewing. That's like exactly.
I guess I don't think it's actually in those.
It's
places.
like it's almost like clairvoyance.
You think so?
Yeah. It's like you are seeing these locations, and you're there.
Yeah, but they're void of the people.
Of people.
Right. Exactly. Well, that is more. I think that's more of a perceptual thing. It's like the people are there. It's just that when you're there,
I feel like I'm still learning it because with certain individuals,
because it's the focus. Your focus is only on one thing. So you may be in another location, but your focus is on the client. So I think what you have there is a connection with the spirit. So you've got that, but you said that I really think that's more remote viewing than anything, because people who remote view say the same thing. They see these different things that they're supposed to see, but a lot of times they don't see the people.
Well, but the thing is, I do remote viewing. That's different, but I do actually see the people there. For example, when you were asking me the last time, where these things were at.
Do you feel like you're there, by the way? Just a quick question. Do you feel like you're there when you remote view? Is it like you're standing amongst the people?
Part of me is.
But I'm not that's by location.
When people, all these terms, man. When people leave their body in surgery, or when they die for open heart surgery and they find themselves floating in a corner of a room and looking down, I feel like whatever plane of reality or existence that is, I'll call it a waiting room. Okay. That
some people will call that the astral realm, but go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So I can go there. And I was there when I looked at your place, Ramona, when I was asking you if it was like a big place, because that's what I was seeing. And then that wicker woven thing, or that was a different person, I think. But you had, I was talking about the bathtub with like those old fashioned like feet, like animal feet. You had some sort of dresser that had those at the bottom, and I saw that. So that was the remote viewing. But then this.
How come I see a ceramic tub? Do you have a ceramic tub, Ramona?
Who?
You.
I don't know what it's made of.
Is it a tub though? I mean, do you have like a tub with a little?
It's flat in the floor tub.
Yeah,
it doesn't have feet.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get at here is, I've got this client A, client B, client C. I feel like I'm learning this as I go. There might be a few more years ahead of me to kind of fully realize what this is for myself, but I'm drawing a map to show what is common among all of these people that I channel to bring me to this location, to bring me to that location, because they're very different locations in my life, in different experiences that I've had in my life. And there's not necessarily yet a clear connection as to why these particular people all must have something in common for me to go to those certain places in addition to what I channel with them. And I feel like it is different than the astral realm.
Mm.
It's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I kind of understand that. I understand that. It's almost as if it is your pathway or something about it brings you to that point so that you can merge with their consciousness in order to pull the information, almost as if that place in particular that you find yourself
wow.
is like your library, like a mental library. And
Okay.
the doorways of the mind is opening, and that particular place or room or city or whatever is like a common mental
Access point.
library. Does that
Okay.
make sense to you?
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what, when you were explaining it to me, it was almost like the mind is like the mansion with many rooms. And when
That's
people
right.
ask for a reading or whatever, and they don't give you anything specific, I find myself in a long hallway, in a place that sometimes look familiar and sometimes doesn't, but there's a million doors that open.
Sounds like the Akashic Records.
That they're not being specific. So now I have to wander down through there to try to pull this information out when they just want random type thing.
Okay.
And that's what it kind of reminds me of when you were describing it. That's what I felt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm with you there. That's a really long hallway, by the way. It's got like this regal carpet. It's a little fancy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a castle or
that's the feeling I get. Yeah, it's like a seriously long hallway. It's like back in the day when they had servants going around, they would have like these structures. I remember watching some sort of like HGTV-esque program about this. It was really interesting, where it's like they designed this so that they could walk from one end to the other and get to all these different rooms so that no rooms were actually closed off. Oh, it was about the last Russian Tsar. And how they designed the rooms in his house or his palace or whatever. And it was kind of funny because sometimes they would say, even if one servant went from one end to the other and they ran as fast as they could, it would take them like 7 or 8 minutes to get all the way down there. I mean, there were hundreds of rooms, and none of these rooms actually were closed off by themselves, even though there's like one doorway that opens to it goes to the center of the structure, where there's like a staircase or some sort of stairwell that you can access from that point. But along the periphery of that floor was also these long corridors. And that's kind of what I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So any more questions, Ramona?
No. I just hate for this show to end because the two of you together are so interesting.
Oh, thank you. Don't worry. I'm going to have Sky on again because there are certain subjects I have yet to approach with him, and it's going to be very good to
Awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's
that first top layer.
Exactly. Good night. We love you, Ramona.
Good night, Ramona.
Okay, so let me just take a minute. Now listen, everybody. Now is the time to call in. You got a question? Ask it. If you want to have the great Sky Chen peer into your very soul and pull out information, well, hey, now is the time. Hey, you need a blessing. You need me to peer into your soul and, love you to heaven. Give me a buzz. So here's the number, just in case. The number is 1-929-436-2866. 929-436-2866. Meeting ID number. After you call that number, then call 522-657-2748. 522-657-2748. Okay, back to the show. Well, thank you, Ed. Appreciate that. Okay, so now, Sky.
We
Now,
should do a whole show where we just have like a 1930s announcer's voice. So I'm going to tell you here, Sonny, this is what my experience has been when I was in Taiwan, okay?
yeah.
Had that really high tinny, like, you know why
And
they
I'll do the low. I'll do the low. Rock and roll. 88.3 WQRI FM. Hello, everybody. My name is Ed. I'm rocking and rolling with you from 10 until 2. All day, all night, all summer long. Play 'em as you say 'em. Right here on 88.3 WQRI FM. Yeah, we can have fun with that. So, Sky, are you a astral traveler?
I am, but I don't intend to. I don't try to.
Why not?
Why not? Well, take the bus.
Are there not realms to explore?
Sure. But I think intent matters, like with Ramona's story. You know, you really have to get down pat why it is you're going to go to where you are. But I guess the reason why I'm not really naturally inclined to doing that is because the information comes to me. The spirits come to me. If I need to be contacted by somebody, they will. And sometimes it's through the astral plane, sometimes it's not. But I don't really go off of the intent to do it like a lot of folks try to do. Nothing wrong with it, you know. I guess that's just my jam. I guess because every waking moment and every sleeping moment too, you know, I'm connected. I'm getting all this stream of information coming through. But the times that I have, it's been surreal. It's been amazing. I remember I've got a story. So we'll get to one story tonight.
There we go.
This was about 3 or 4 years ago at the previous place that I lived. And at the time, I was in the afterglow period of a relationship that had ended with my girlfriend in Taiwan. And she was thinking about me. I was thinking about her. And it was a rough period of my life. And we kind of, you know, parted our ways, and it wasn't necessarily like such a cut and dry kind of departing. But I remember I went to bed that night and I had my dreams, right? I was dreaming. And then I thought that I woke up, and I was so entirely sure.
So now you're talking about a lucid dream. Okay.
Sure. I guess it's this one and the same. Maybe that's why it's coming up. But I remember waking up, right? I do a little bunny ears here. I woke up, but I could see outside of myself. I could see, you know, it wasn't just me and my body. I was outside observing me in the bed. But it was interesting because as I was looking around, my vision was what I felt as crystal clear as one would have if they were literally waking up in the middle of the night looking, like there was no distinction. I remember actually asking myself, am I actually woken up here? Oh, okay. Yeah, I am. And I was really so absolutely sure that I was awake. Well, a couple minutes go by and I get this feeling, this sensation from behind me in the closet.
Really?
And I feel, ooh, you know, I had been working with spirits before, and in that particular location, ironically enough, there was a rotten smell that had lingered over and over and over and over and over again. We were trying to see if there was a dead animal in there. I had worked with the landlord, seeing if it was something with a hot water heater. He replaced it for me. We had a mechanic come over like 3-4 times trying to figure it out. Every time, lo and behold, the smell would leave when they would come over. But then it would come out at night. Well, anyway, in that general vicinity, in that location, is where I got this feeling. I didn't see anything, but I got this feeling from behind me. I was like laying this way, and then behind me was the closet. Someone was there. Someone was looking. Someone was wanting to contact with me, but they were kind of holding back. So I affirmed aloud what I thought was affirming aloud. It was me observing myself affirming this aloud, saying, no one who isn't, or I said something along the lines of, there's no place here for anyone uninvited. This is only an area for people who are invited or spirits who are invited here. If you're not invited, you need to leave. But I still felt it was there, and it was coming a little bit closer. And so again, I reaffirmed, this time with more gumption, with more resolve in my tone.
Well,
If you are
chutzpah.
not, if you are not meant to be here, if I did not invite you, you have no place or space in this vicinity. Leave now. Well, it didn't leave, and it kept inching closer and closer to the point where I was like screaming it out. I was like, you can't be around me. I don't give you any permission. You don't have permission to be around my body or to touch me or to come up or anything like that. Well, at the moment that happened, all of a sudden, they slipped in behind me and spooned me and hugged me. And all of my apprehension, all of my fear just melted away like that because it felt familiar to me. And I woke up. I actually woke up. I thought I was awakened during that entire, what would you call it?
Episode.
Yeah. I woke up and I was like, oh my God. Wow. Because that experience was so very real. It was so very sharp and clear. And I've had these out-of-body experiences before, and they've not always had that amount of absolute clarity with like the vision and the context and the contour and the shapes and the colors and the shading and everything that you would normally have with two eyes in the waking hours when you're consciously awake and you're there and you're looking at reality. And that impression left me for such a long time. And then I asked one of my friends who's a psychic medium as well what this was about. And she said right away, she's like, that's your ex. That's your lady friend. Wanting so bad to connect with me across the other end of the globe, across all that sea, all that ocean. And our situation was, it was
tenuous.
It was, difficult.
Yeah.
It didn't
but
work
yet
out.
Somehow she connected with you on a spiritual level.
Absolutely. And she's not necessarily a spiritual person herself. I mean, she is. This is another frustration. I wouldn't call it a pet peeve, but a frustration of mine is when people are spiritual, but they don't look there, or they don't access themselves in that way, or they downplay it, or they play mental games with, like my friend I was talking about earlier in the broadcast a couple of days ago. I was having a really brainy conversation with him, and I just had to let it go. I just had to leave. I was like, this is an echo chamber. There's nothing going here. You're not hearing me out on what it is you need to hear. And a lot of times people think it's an ego thing with me, but it's not. It's not about ego. It's about wanting to connect with you in this way. It has nothing to do with me. It doesn't involve me. It doesn't even, well, it involves me, but it doesn't, how would you say? It doesn't affect me in any sort of way, whether or not what you believe in. But I want to connect there, and that's my endowment. That's my capability. So I like to go there, and I feel compelled to go there when spirit leads me to go there. And then when I feel like it's not connecting, or like what you would say, when you throw the seed, when you cast the seed and it lands on rocky ground, or pelicans come by and eat it up, or it gets washed away by some rain or something, you have to let it go after a while. Right. That was a big learning curve for me. And one of the main reasons why I shied away from my gift and my ability for so many years, because that's hard to swallow. That's hard to take when you feel that alone, until you meet other people that can do it too. And then it's pretty cool.
Do you know that it is just about 25 minutes before the show's over? Wow. That's awesome. Right.
Goes by.
I knew we were going to rock this thing. I knew it. So, and I think Katie's taken over as the producer. Is that right? Did Katie take over? Hello, producer?
Producer-san.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's our show anyway. So, all right. So what I want to make sure I do before we part ways is I want to make sure I pray a blessing for you, if that's okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
And if there's anything specifically that you would like me to bless, let me know, and I will listen, and I'll see if I pick up anything for you. So if you want that would be, I'll do that.
Sure.
Okay, good. Because, like you said, go ahead.
I was going to say there's two areas in my life right now that are really important and prominent.
Do you want me to try to see that, or do you want to tell me?
Either way, you can
Because
see
I
it.
see one of them is one of them relationships.
Yes.
Okay. And the other one's financial?
Yep, you got it. There you go.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Wow. Okay. I saw those two things. Those were the two things I was going to bless. So
With
there you go.
the relationship, it's a
Mhm.
twin flame situation. So it's not an ordinary challenge, shall we say. It's not a typical cup
Since
of tea.
when is anything about you ordinary?
Well,
Right? So there you go. It was like we were talking about before, our path, just by virtue of the fact that we have made mankind our business.
mm-hmm.
And even as a kid, I used to watch the old black and white Christmas Carol. Alastair Sim was the guy who played Scrooge, the best version by far. Anyway, but he, when Jacob Marley comes in, he's got all the chains, and he has to wander the earth, the spiritual realm, forever, with all these chains and these money boxes, because he had a love of money as opposed to mankind. And he was like, I think Scrooge said, you always had a keen mind. You always were a great businessman. He goes, no, mankind was my business, and I was like, wow, so with great power, great responsibility. Jacob Marley teaches me a little something. And I started to learn that when Creator speaks, he speaks from within, but he also speaks through different things. If you have as I found out later, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. In other words, if you have a willingness to see and hear, you'd be surprised at the many different kinds of ways that you'll learn. So even from this particular show, I've learned a thing or two. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. So one final topic before we wrap things up. We talked about pet peeves, but there was one thing you said you wanted to talk about, and I could squeeze it in now, and then maybe we can add on to it in another show. But let's talk about now, both of us in the paranormal world, we got our heads screwed on right. We know that, well, in the way we do, we know that it's about being a blessing to other people and serving serving others the best that we can. I know that so that's one thing I know I can see in you very clearly, is that your motive is pure. It's not like you're out there to make money. I know some people that have a gift and they use it, and all they use it for is to make money. And well, then I think that kind of defeats the purpose. But I could see a measure of service there. But at the same time, if it produces fruit for you, then of course, don't muzzle the ox. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Earth is weird about that. Earth is a place.
But I wanted to say, go ahead. Earth is weird about that.
Earth is weird about this money, because it's one thing that's very unique about us, our currency, the way that we exchange. It's not typical in the solar system, other systems that are nearby us. The life forms that have interacted with Earth people typically don't use systems like that. They use different systems.
What kind of beings have you interacted with, and have you interacted with any of them on a physical level?
Not yet on a physical level. It will come, though, I feel.
So you've seen the lights in the sky, but you've never had a close encounter of the fourth or third kind?
Well, I'll tell you another story here.
Yeah.
So this year, I've never really been one to dive in to extraterrestrials and aliens to the extent that a lot of people are fanatic about it. And I respect that, the people who are there. I have had lifetimes on other planets before, but I feel like the vast majority have been on this one. So I've got a little bit of it sprinkled in. However, this year, was it in February? Yeah. In February was the first time where during a meditation session, a being came through, and I saw them in my mind's eye. And the contour, the shape, they were very stout and short, incredibly white, pale, almost glowing skin, very smooth, almost like moist, like super hydrated skin. Like they must have lathered on Nivea like 24/7 all the time. But
Sounds like
very,
the Dover Demon.
oh
Seriously.
God.
Yeah, in Dover, Maine, there was a being, and you're describing it to the T, that these people kept on seeing, and it was up in a tree, but it was it was
about
all white, about 3 or 4 feet tall. Yeah.
Oh, 3 or
Yeah.
4 feet tall. Okay. Yeah. And it didn't give me a bad feeling.
No, they just called it Dover Demon, but that's just
that's not fitting.
Press.
That's fitting to that.
But they kept on seeing this being, and it's exactly how you're describing it. It's fascinating. Continue, please.
They're very kind. They're very helpful. They want us to succeed. They want us to help. And they're also like towing a very delicate line right now. It's like how much involvement, when to rein it back, because I guess we can say traditionally, the tactic has been to, okay, let's not have them see us to the greatest extent we possibly can. And only those who are okay
aware
to have us be seen and be abducted. No, I'm just joking. They don't do that. But they contacted me and they were telling me that this year is incredibly monumental and a lot of great things going to happen, and that they're here to kind of protect me and guide me to the best of their capability. And they want people like me to succeed and to have the resources that we need to be active on Earth in the way that we need in this year and next year and the year after that.
So you're talking about the Prime Directive.
Who knows? I had channeled what
the Prime Directive is?
No.
Star Trek, where they do not intervene in different societies. They observe, but they remain invisible, and they only observe.
Prime Directive.
But they don't interrupt the natural course of a civilization. It's called the Prime Directive.
That's very noble.
Yeah. Nerdy.
Original Star Trek. See, I grew up on Next Gen. Right. That tells you how young I am.
Well, they had the Prime Directive too.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, Jean-Luc was all about that. Over his Earl Grey.
Earl Grey, hot. I loved those. I was like 4 or 5 years old when those were coming out, brand new. My uncle was so into that, and I loved my uncle, and I didn't understand like anything that was going on, but I could tell that those episodes were engaging because you could feel it.
Good choice of words, engage.
Pun intended, or maybe not, but perfectly aligned. So that was the first Prime Directive.
Number 1, you smell like number 2.
Right? Or smell like fire and brimstone. So that happened in February. And then, what was it? 2 months ago, maybe not even, about 7 weeks ago, very specifically, I had another instance in a meditation where they came. Actually, it was a water blessing. See, I bless my water as often as I can. And I bless it in such a manner that the blessing is forever and it reciprocates itself beyond me, beyond this body. So I take it in, it goes out, whatever life, whatever matter comes into contact with it will be blessed. It's like a self-blessing water.
Sure.
That goes off and multiplies and exponentially.
Why not?
Exactly. We need that right now. So I do that. And this other species came through. And this time it was an individual, a female, and she was very fond of me, and she liked me. And I could see her almost so clearly in my mind's eye. My eyes were closed and I was like talking with her. And I creeped my eyes open a little bit like this, like half expecting to see this literal being sitting across from me. And I was like, am I ready? Am I ready? Am I ready? And then they were like, well, you're not quite ready yet for that kind of contact. But I feel like when the time comes, I will be. So no big deal. But that was a great feeling because the compassion and the the foresight that these beings have is extraordinary, because they're seeing, like I just heard, eagle flies high to sea. They're seeing a big perspective. The eagle spirit has been with me for this past year, by the way. I did a sacred cacao ceremony. There's this glorious, beautiful.
Because I have something to share with you about that I think is going to help you.
Okay. This glorious, beautiful eagle who's like 6 feet tall or so when he's standing. He's bright white. He's huge. He's got this very masculine, deep voice, who came to me as my spirit, as one of my animal guides in the very first sacred cacao ceremony that I engaged in. See, I've been in 3, and I feel like I'm being called to guide a couple of them myself as well. So anybody watching and listening right now, reach out to me. We'll probably see if we can get this done here. We basically drink chocolate, okay?
Absolutely.
Cacao. It's pre-processed cocoa. It's medicinal, and we can arrange this on Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah, we can arrange this on Zoom. But it's incredibly powerful because it helps us to meet directly our earthly guides, the guides who are here to help us with the 3D. Because although there's a lot of 5...
I'm sorry. So the cacao ceremony, right, where you get the coca leaves, right? Now,
cocoa
can
nibs.
I get that in the States?
Yeah.
Or it's not illegal?
No.
Oh, even though it has the potential to open up your consciousness?
Well, cacao has a lot of caffeine, and it has a lot of antioxidants, and it raises what I would say the clear chi. See, I have a background with traditional Chinese medicine as well.
That's okay.
Another time.
Just speak the terms, and I'll explain.
Yeah,
folks. Yep.
Clear chi. It opens the heart. It opens the heart channel, so it allows you to be not so judgmental about what you experience, and allows you.
I know that they pack the nut, or sometimes they pack the.
Oh, that's beetle. That's beetle nut. That's different.
Right.
That's now, where when I first arrived in Taiwan, I've got stories of that too. I thought that people were murdering pigeons all around. It's like, what's all this blood on the ground for? It's people chewing beetle nut and spitting it out. It's bright red on the ground. It looks like blood splatters everywhere. Did you see that in Hong Kong too?
I did. I saw that also in Central America when I was there.
That's a low key narcotic.
Yeah, like
the blue collar workers, they chew that over there to pull overnight shifts and stuff. It's like super loaded espresso. But
kava.
Oh yeah.
It's another one that I was introduced to when I was in the jungle.
No, cacao is unprocessed cacao. Or cocoa, excuse me.
Right.
Cacao is unprocessed cocoa, and then processed cocoa is chocolate. So similar medicinal properties, but it's not loaded with sugar or anything.
Oh, Katie says that she's had kava.
Yeah.
I love it. Were you profoundly, beautifully affected by the kava?
The
Katie?
cacao. Oh.
The kava, yeah. Did she have a pleasant, warm experience? Whoever wrote that? I think it was Katie. Anyway, yeah. Some people have had experiences with that.
Yeah, but I didn't have the full hallucinogenic effect to it.
Here's the interesting thing. The terminology in Greek is the word pharmakeia. So we get the word pharmacy from. But pharmakeia translated from the Greek is a term for witchcraft. Because yeah, absolutely. What the sorcerers, well, not really, sorcerers. The sorcerers and the witches would do is they would brew these different things like ayahuasca, for the DMT element, and then that would loosen themselves from their mortal coil to fly into space as witches and whatever else. But yeah, it's called pharmakeia.
But I do know that kava is up in the Pacific Islands. It's highly illegal in Australia, but it is smuggled in. But if you go to the Pacific Islands, just off the coast of New Zealand and Australia, you can actually be sampled a whole heap of kava, but they only give you a small amount to the tourists because they know what it is.
Ah, I see. Too bad you can't get it in the States. Oh, did I say that out loud?
I first found out about kava kava because it was smuggled into my housewarming / first engagement party that I had back years ago.
The one thing I've had closest, I guess you could say, to that is when I made myself some marijuana tea.
Mm.
Yeah, all I did was, boil the water, and then I put one of the buds in there, and
Oh
then
man,
I
you
just,
you need to add a
uh,
drop of coconut oil or some sort of fat.
or then what I added was some sugar, maybe a little honey, which I don't know, and then it was actually quite delicious. It was clear, but it was quite delicious, and of course, after a little while, whatever aches and
Really?
pains I had went away. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So it was, it
Yeah.
wasn't like I got high off this stuff because it was
Yeah,
only one. I mean, if I,
yeah, you wouldn't have. You have to use a different process.
yeah, like smoke it.
It's not water soluble. It's fat soluble. So if you consume it, you have to extract it some way. But
Oh,
there are
that's why they say to add the coconut butter or something.
yes, you need
Got
to
it.
put some sort of fat in there. That's why you would have put like some coconut oil or
So if
some,
I so if I put the bud in my coffee with cream.
technically speaking, or you could get some honey oil,
Hmm.
which is just reduced with ethanol. It's
Hmm.
extracted with ethanol. Or you get like a full spectrum one because
So funny we're talking about this on my show. Huh? Road
why
to
not?
something. May not be road to hope, but it's road to something. Right.
That's what that reggae music I was hearing earlier
Yeah.
is all about.
No
Um,
woman, no
but it
cry.
really,
Yeah.
the full spectrum stuff really helps people with chronic debilitating illnesses, um, because it doesn't just, it barely gets people high, but it's not really high because you have not only THC, but you have CBG, you have
Is it
CB,
Well,
CBD?
yeah,
I
CBD, THC.
I have
Yeah,
a
go ahead,
question.
Kate. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on ayahuasca?
The ayahuasca stuff, you mean?
Yeah, is that is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called ayahuasca. Yeah.
Mhm. I've never
Yeah.
had
So
it.
what are my views on it?
Yeah,
I
because a lot of
well,
people are backing away from it, especially the rituals that go with it.
oh
Mm,
my gosh, yeah, because some of them are brutal, and the only reason why it is because people don't properly um, process themselves before they get there. So,
mhm. Yeah.
um, from what I understand from some shamans that I know, they've said you've got to go through the process of like a cleansing so
Yes.
that your intention is clear, your conscience itself is clear,
Mhm.
because what is inward will manifest outwardly very quickly when you start taking ayahuasca. And then, of course, there's the dehydration factor and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people try it. Just you, as I said, try it. But ayahuasca is not designed, from what I understand, was never designed as recreational. It's
No,
again
that's
one of those
exactly right.
Yeah.
spiritual
And
things,
Yeah.
a spiritual doorway. Not
there,
that I condone it. I'm just saying that it's very serious stuff.
yeah, and there's a lot of people that are going down to South America right now just for recreational purposes, and then finding out that they're dead as a doorknob.
Yep.
Oh wow.
And the
That's probably,
DMT too. I mean, the DMT, that's the element that makes it
yeah.
hallucinogenic.
But I feel like the dangerous aspect to it only in certain situations is with people who are extra sensitive or in situations where there's too much of the MOAIs,
Yeah.
monoxamine adelase inhibitor or something like that. If you want to get
Hmm.
technical, don't quote me, but that is
Just did.
what prevents your body from breaking it down in with neurotransmitters properly. It has to deal with serotonin. So if you have
Right.
SSRI issues, like if you have,
Hmm.
like with me, actually, I've got this trait genetically that SSRIs are actually a little bit risky for me, which is why when I did magic mushrooms in college the first time, it
Hmm.
was not, it was way too intense. And it's interesting because it's like maybe there's some sort of physiological correlation with people who channel in this, because it's
Hmm.
like I don't even need that to
That's
access these kinds
exactly
of
correct,
realms.
because people are taking magic mushrooms
Mhm.
to get to the place where you are at.
Yeah, it was too
And
intense
the
for me.
ayahuasca with the DMT, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
Um, in a way, it's a shortcut to spiritual development. So many times people are experiencing these experiences, but they do not possess the maturity to process.
Or the
So,
equipment. It's like going to
oh,
space with a kayak.
well, precisely. So, that's why
Katie's laughing over there.
people should be like, you know, preparing themselves properly,
Yes.
you
You
know, and
slingshot
I've
yourself.
always, and this one thing that I've learned
Wear a helmet.
is, and you know this to be true in your journeys, uh, listen to the natives, don't assume you know everything. When I was in Central America and I was going through the San Blas Islands, I was getting ready to jump into the water off the bow of the ship I was on, to pull out the gangplank and everything, the gangway. Um, but my friend Braulio, who was the guide at the time, he pointed down and there was a stingray that had particular rings on him. And
Ooh.
he's like, I wouldn't jump in that water right now. My boss is yelling at me. He's like, Broderick, jump in the water. Let's go. And I'm like, I'm not going. If Braulio, he grew up in this neck of the woods and neck of the ocean, if he wouldn't jump in the water with that thing, I sure as Shinola, I almost said the other word, I sure as hell not gonna. I'm not gonna be jumping in there
Yeah.
with that thing. Could be getting stung. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But Katie, I want to ask you a quick question before we get back to Sky, because I want to make sure I bless him before we wrap things up. How much time do we have left,
We
Kate?
have about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Holy moly!
I know it goes by.
Well, Kate, I want to chat with you tomorrow
Okay.
because I want to bless you. Okay.
Okie
So
dokie.
you pick the time, and I'll bless you tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I love you, Kate. You're a magnificent human being, and I think you are awesome. I really do. I should call you Reverend Doctor instead. I apologize, but girl, you got with the bag of chips. All right,
Man, just say
now
that I'm hungry.
Sky, may I bless you now, sir?
Yes. Thank you.
Father, thank you so much for the show. It was awesome. I appreciate it, Lord. I bless you, Sky, in the name of Jesus. And this particular blessing, I'm asking the foundation, which will give you wisdom and guidance in relationship. You will know what to do when you need to do it. And also financially, it will pull the pin that will cause the release. And that is for your spiritual eyes to open even more than they are now. And yes, that's part of the blessing. That's part of the authority that's in the blessing. So in the name of the Lord Jesus, I bless you with spiritual sight. I call upon the name of God, creator of all things. I call for his spiritual vision, his spiritual eye to open, that he will see through and see true everything that he needs to see. I ask, Lord, that he will be able to see what he needs to see when he needs to see it, that he will see the revelation, that he will see the truth, that he will see that highest level. Thank you for that. Thank you. Right now, even now, I call for that stirring to happen and for that eye to open now in Jesus' name. Any form of spiritual blindness, go. Any kind of cloud or negative energy of any kind, I command that to go right now in Jesus' name. All forms of darkness, loose him and let him go. And only that which is light and blessing and more abundantly be upon you, in you, and through you. Thank you for giving him wisdom as to what to do, what to say to the twin flame. Thank you, that's already done. And any kind of blockage to his blessing financially, I call for that to go too. I bless you that finances will come in from the north, east, and west, from all directions. And within the next 24 hours, let that trickle begin to a mighty waterfall. In Jesus' name, amen. I got you, bro.
Thanks, man.
So, Sky, we have reached the end of our show. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us. And I am so looking forward to checking you out when you grab the mic and you have your own show. I'm very much excited about that. Can't wait to see what you're going to come up with.
Thank you.
Keep
so
me
much.
posted. Of course, we're going to be in touch. So, keep me posted about what's going on with that whole thing.
Obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because your eyes are opening. I can see it. I can actually see it. It's really cool. Yeah. I mean, it's been, wow, you made this fun. I can't believe it. I felt like I've only been talking for about an hour and it's already over and done.
That's how you know it's good. Now you got to go make your pastrami sandwich.
I am, and I'm going to eat it nice and slow. That's a lie. I'm probably going to devour it and go, oh no.
Yeah, you're going to go, this is so, just inhale it.
Done. I'd be like stuffing it down my throat. Then you hear about me going to the emergency room while they're pulling pastrami out of my throat. It's
Local
just
man
embarrassing.
chokes on pastrami, but lives to tell the tale.
Exactly. Has near-death experience.
You can tell everybody.
Big sausage.
You can tell everybody working on you that it was the most delicious choking episode you've ever had in your life.
I had a vision amongst the pastrami gods. Yeah, I can just. So funny.
Amazing.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking the time. And truly, namaste, my friend. So appreciate all that you, I appreciate all that you do for others, and I appreciate what you've done for me and for my people. So you are definitely coming back, because I haven't even covered the topics I wanted to talk to you about. We just riffed today, but
We have to have a series.
we need to. I think, you know what? I think that in the future, after I get the other guests, after the first of the year, I think I want to start having you on like on a consistent basis, like once a month or something, and we could just talk about
That'd be
whatever
fun.
topic.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, because I want to get you out there as much as possible.
Thank you.
I want to help you be successful, because I
Thanks, Ed.
believe in your vision, my friend. So,
Thank you.
all right, Kate, is that